Chapter 1. Everything is free, completely free. Bin House City, night. The streets are deserted at midnight. Only the sign of the anything can be modified shop is still lit. Inside, shadows flit about. An indifferent voice can be heard. Boss Sue, your lease is almost up, and you can't delay any longer. If you can't pay the rent, we will have to reclaim your shop as per the rules. I really don't know how your modification shop can keep running without any core modification technology. Don't worry, I will definitely have the rent for you within this week. After finally sending the landlord away, Su-chun returned to the cash register, looking out at the empty street, and sighed. This is not Earth, but the star god world, a place where the racing industry is highly developed. However, the vehicles on the racetracks are not ordinary cars, but fantasy creatures known as mechanical girls. They usually appear as human girls, but can transform into supercars on the racetrack. He has been in this world for 3 months. Initially, he thought the money he earned from manual labor would be enough to sustain the modification shop. Now it seems he was too naive. Even if he was the top modification expert on Earth, no one here knows him. He was genuinely shocked when he first learned about mechanical girls upon arriving in this world. But soon, that shock turned into excitement. A modification expert. He is also a car enthusiast. Who wouldn't want their racing car to transform into a beautiful young girl? Driving by day and holding a ponytail by night, isn't that wonderful? He thought it would be easy to acquire a mechanical girl of his own, but he was deterred by the high entry requirements. First of all, a driving license is the most basic requirement. Secondly, mechanical girls can only be obtained through league academies, club allocations, or personal purchase. And purchasing a mechanical girl requires a substantial amount of money. The rarer the mechanical girl, the more expensive she is. Moreover, even if one has the money to buy a mechanical girl, some high-grade ones require mutual recognition. These 3 requirements alone eliminate 99.9% of the population. So he resolved to first tackle the issue of money. He thought he could quickly make money with his superb modification skills and even gain the favor of numerous mechanical girls. But the reality was that, without any fame, no mechanical girl came to him for modifications in 2 months. There were drivers who visited the shop, but upon discovering he lacked a certificate, they turned and left. In this world, modification experts must pass strict academic assessments to obtain their certification. And he simply doesn't have the time to go back to school now that he has no academic qualifications and is even ineligible to take the exams. Right now, he's like a skilled doctor without a medical license, and a legal practitioner. Modify a mechanical girl, activate talent eye. In Su-chen's mind, there is a star map with several dim stars. Most are hidden within nebulas, with only one exposed. Whenever he focuses on the first star, a line of starry text materializes. He propped his chin with one hand, tapping absent-mindedly on the table, and sighed again. Can it just activate directly? Why all the twists and turns? This is clearly a built-in advantage of his transmigration. However, there is no system interface, and he cannot communicate. If it were another transmigrator, they would have activated their advantage long ago. He is still stuck on the first step. Where to get the rent money? Should I go back to manual labor? Su-chan frowned in contemplation. Relying on manual labor to maintain the modification shop is not a long-term solution. The urgent matter is still to activate his talent. He must find a mechanical girl to modify. But he can't force this. Mechanical girls are all formidable battle sisters, and knocking one out to forcibly modify her is simply not feasible. It seems there's no other choice. Su-chan narrowed his eyes and took a whiteboard from the warehouse. As a top modification expert, he shouldn't be doing such a degrading thing. But he is out of options that he can only try whatever works. At midnight, North Street is cold. Neon lights illuminate the asphalt, casting mottled shadows on the street. Xingming walks alone on this deserted street, her thin jacket pressed tightly against her body by the cold wind. Under the streetlight, her shadow stretches long, merging with the distant silhouettes of tall buildings. Stumbling past a modification shop, the cold light shines on her pale face. She stands in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, staring at the reflection of the girl in the glass, her gaze as frozen as a still lake, reflecting no light. Xingming silently gazes at herself. Scenes from a morning flash through her mind. Xingming, I'm afraid I won't pass the graduation race. Master, there's still a few days until the graduation race. We have time to prepare. Don't give up easily. Am I giving up easily? Isn't it because your performance is so poor? The woman in the driver's uniform slammed her fist down on the coffee table. Her voice trembled, hysterical. The words that spilled out were far colder and more piercing than knives. If only your performance was a bit better, I wouldn't even be struggling to pass, let alone become a joke in front of my classmates. Master, too will work hard to improve myself. The cautious words were brutally torn apart, followed by an even fiercer storm. What good is that? Can you help me pass the assessment? Can you help me graduate? Can you improve your performance in a short time? I can, great. Then go improve. If you can't, don't come back to see me. Get lost. The door slammed shut with a bang. Everything came to a sudden halt. The only way for mechanical girls to improve their performance in a short time is through modifications. Replacing with better modification cores. The cost involved could be astronomical. And she and her master are just students at the League Academy, and their earnings are mostly spent on daily maintenance, leaving no spare funds for modifications. Xingming spent the day running around various modification shops with her dwindling savings. Those modification experts initially enthusiastically introduced various modification cores, but their faces quickly turned indifferent and disdainful within moments of her reaching for her money. She had too little money, she couldn't even afford the most basic modification core. Credit was not an option either. Modification shops don't accept any credit, and they hurried her out when she couldn't pay. After a day of running around, she felt both exhausted and hungry. The exhaustion was mental, while the hunger came from not having any nutrient solution. Perhaps she could only walk a few more steps before needing to find a place to lie down and enter sleep mode, waiting for the patrolling tow truck mechanical girls to take her away. In front of her stood a newly built modification shop. She remembered it used to be a supermarket. The shop is small, looking a bit shabby, with not a single modification core on the shelves. So what is this shop selling? Does the owner not do modification business? Xingming pressed her face against the glass window. Her soft cheeks squished into a comical flat shape through the floor-to-ceiling glass. She saw a handsome man, presumably the owner, hanging a whiteboard at the entrance. After the owner turned and returned to the warehouse inside the shop, Xingming cautiously moved to the entrance of the modification shop. She had been rejected by the shop owner too many times, scared by their hostility, and didn't dare to appear in their line of sight again. Fearing another scolding for being broke, she was almost ready to give up on the modifications, until she saw the bold characters on the whiteboard at the entrance of the modification shop: free modifications. There was also a small speaker hanging on the door. The speaker crackled twice and suddenly burst into a rhythmic, catchy voice. We're closing down. The unscrupulous boss has run away with his sister-in-law. Modification fees that used to cost tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands are now free. Not $9.98, not $98, and definitely not $9.98. Clearance sale. Blowout sale. All modifications are free, completely free. Disclaimer: this book is set in a fictional world, and any resemblance to real persons or events is purely coincidental. The machine girls are fantasy creatures. Please do not apply carbon-based thinking to study any of their characteristics. By agreeing to the above terms, welcome to the era of machine girls. Chapter 2. Training room. The soft cat ears and a tuft of hair on Xingming's head perked up as she stood at the door of the modification shop for half a minute. It wasn't tea until a tall figure appeared before her, casting a shadow, that she snapped out of it. Hello. Welcome to our shop, Miss Machine Girl. Are you here for modifications? Standing in front of her was the shop owner from earlier. He wore a warm smile, but his gaze had an intensity that felt like he could devour her whole. Fortunately, his handsome and rugged face eased a lot of her tension. Xingming felt she could manage. Yes, she said, stepping back a little, nervously tugging at her clothes while pointing at the whiteboard. Is it really free for modifications? Of course. Su Chin's smile became even more genuine. It seemed this was the first machine girl to come to his shop alone. There had been other machine girls before, but they were always accompanied by drivers, and they left when he shook his head due to lack of credentials. Now that the opportunity was rare, he had to make the most of it. Oh no, he meant to treat her well. This isn't a place for chatting outside. Come on in. Su Chin nearly pulled the cat-eared machine girl inside. Under the bright lights of the shop, the girl's delicate features appeared even more striking. Her light blue eyes sparkled like two gems, her flawless skin glowed under the illumination, and her silver shoulder-length hair flowed down smoothly like a waterfall. At first, he thought the cat ears on her head were just a clever accessory until they twitched, along with the tail behind her. A real beast-eared girl. Who could resist that? Su Chin gestured for the cat-eared girl to sit at the cash register while he turned around and rummaged through the fridge for a while. Finally, he found a can of nutrient solution, inserted a straw, and placed it in front of her. This was the best treatment he could offer to his customers. The nutrient solution was a daily energy supply for machine girls, similar to energy drinks, with various flavors. Among them, ginger, durian, devil chili, and garlic flavors were always on sale at a discount, though no one seemed to buy them, and production continued for some reason. Xingming blushed and said thank you. Although she felt embarrassed, her sleepy head really needed an energy boost. She took a small sip of the nutrient solution and immediately shivered, her features scrunching up in distaste. Ugh, what is this flavor? Looking down at the label, Xingming was stunned. Ginger flavor? Did anyone really like such a peculiar taste? Despite how hard it was to drink, she didn't want to let the owner down. In the end, She summoned her willpower to swallow the bitter and spicy nutrient solution. Before we proceed with the modifications, I need to understand your basic information, Suchin said, pulling out a form and a pen to show the cat-eared girl. Meow, Xingming obediently nodded. It was her first time here for modifications, so she wasn't very familiar with the process. Name and model? Xingming, model Nico 99. Grade? D grade. Xingming glanced at Suchin nervously. D was the lowest grade for machine girls, indicating that she either had defects or poor performance. Usually, her drivers would never disclose her grade for fear of being ridiculed. However, she did not see any unusual expressions on her boss's face, which relieved her a bit. All right. Suchin took notes seriously and raised his eyes to gaze at the girl in front of him, who was clearly tense and anxious. Tell me your requests. Why do you want to modify? What aspects do you want to improve? This will help me understand the basic direction for the modifications. I want to enhance performance because the current performance is poor, making it difficult for the driver to pass the graduation assessment. So, I want to improve performance, mainly focusing on speed. Xingming tilted her head, pondering the characteristics of the graduation assessment track. It was a relatively conventional track, not very difficult, with few curves and many straight sections. As long as the machine's speed met the standard and the driver's skills weren't too lacking, passing the assessment shouldn't be a big problem. I want to improve speed, especially cornering speed. She concluded this, as the graduation assessment involved running laps. And cornering speed was very important. It was a very straightforward thought, and Suchin couldn't help but sigh. In his previous life, new drivers approached him mainly to increase the speed of their cars. But it was the first time a machine had autonomously made such a request. However, one thing puzzled him. The racing academies in this world were a combination of universities and driving schools, teaching academic knowledge while focusing on racing. Of course, ordinary people couldn't afford to attend racing academies, considering the costs of the machines. And machines like Xingming were new models allocated to students in their third year. These machines had no obvious defects, but their performance couldn't be too high, basically hovering around C and D grades. Logically, as long as the driver's skills were adequate, graduating shouldn't be too difficult, right? How could performance issues be blamed on the machine? Moreover, if the performance was lacking, why not just modify the machine? But this was a matter between the machine and the driver, so he didn't want to ask too much. He just wanted to quickly activate his golden finger, make a fortune, and reach the pinnacle of life. Living a life where he could grip the steering wheel during the day and hold twin ponytails at night. I understand your requests. Follow me. Suchin got up and led the way. Xingming followed closely behind, curiously peeking around. Surprised to find that this small shop had more to it. There was actually a long corridor inside. They walked to the end of the corridor, and Suchin took out a key to unlock the door. Under the dim light, an old door creaked open, and a thick darkness surged out from within. As if something terrifying lurked inside, ready to pounce. Xingming shivered. What is this place? This is the modification room, though it's a bit old. Suchin's tone was casual, but half of his face hidden in the darkness seemed somewhat eerie. His hand was rummaging along the wall nearby, from another perspective. It looked like he was searching for a weapon. Xingming stood at the door, hesitant to move. Is it too late to run now? Is this boss going to do something strange to her? Indeed, the free stuff is the most expensive. Please come in, cough cough. Suchin finally found the switch and waved his hand to disperse the dust. The dim yellow light flickered, the darkness receded, and the room seemed to be shrouded in twilight, looking no better than before. It had gone from eerie to lifeless. He saw Xingming standing still in place, anxious to activate her abilities, so he reached out and pulled the wooden-like girl into the room. Come on, stop dawdling. The door slowly closed, and the last glimmer of light was swallowed by darkness. With a click, the lock engaged. The nameplate hanging on the wall lit up with red light. Training room, in session. Div data fankyative image, source user, Xingming Div current publicly available information about the machine girl. Name, Xingming model, Nico 99 star radiance, radiant light, speed, 47 cornering, 54 stability, 42 burst, 35 endurance, 51, rating, D class, abilities, 1, not activated, 2, catgirl specialization, 3, silent movement. Evaluation, a very unique catgirl, specialized machine girl. Born on the west coast of the Sea of Stars, later recruited by the Penang Star Crown League Academy, and assigned as an initial machine girl to students. As an initial machine girl, her performance is barely sufficient, but among initial machine girls, she is not considered outstanding, possessing a very rare appearance and hidden talents. Chapter 3. Let's call it Thunder 1 Core Modification. Upon entering the room, a strong smell of machine oil hit him. There was nothing strange, just a pile of scattered parts in the corner. Xingming recognized these parts, all of which were dismantled from ordinary cars. However, she couldn't understand the significance of her boss collecting these parts. Although ordinary cars still existed in this world, compared to machine girls, they seemed like antiques from the last century, and a machine girl modification shop shouldn't have these. Shouldn't we be focusing on the modification core directly? Looking at her boss rummaging through the pile of parts, Xingming felt a sense of dread. Meanwhile, Su Chen was pondering that the key to improving racing speed lay in optimizing power output, reducing weight, and improving aerodynamics and grip. With limited resources, he could only adopt the simplest and most economical solutions. Soon, he found several pieces of ABS plastic sheets from the pile. All right, transform into your vehicle form. He took the ABS plastic sheets to the workbench and slightly tilted his head, saying, before we officially start the modification, I need to measure the front dimensions. Huh? What do you mean? No, I can't take off my clothes. Xingming clasped her hands in front of her chest, her snow-white cat ears drooping, nearly hidden in her silvery long hair. Her tail was anxiously wrapped around her left leg, the tip twitching. Her light blue eyes darted around, not daring to meet Su Chen's gaze. What are you talking about? Su Chen looked confused. I didn't say to take off your clothes. I meant to transform into your vehicle form. Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. Xingming blushed deeply. She had been so immersed in her paranoid thoughts that she blurted out without even hearing what her boss said. She obediently stood in the center of the room and transformed into her vehicle form. Before Su Chen, the light and shadows shifted, and then a sleek, all-white sports car appeared. Cool. He couldn't help but exclaim. The shape of the car Star Dream has a strong resemblance to a previous model. He circled around Star Dream, already formulating a basic modification plan in his mind. What do you think? Can it be modified? A timid voice came from inside the car. Su Chen glanced at the window and saw that the humanoid form of Star Dream was leaning over the cockpit, her raised hips and glowing limbs merging with the chassis, with an electronic fiber connecting her spine to the steering wheel inside the cockpit. Typically, the driver would sit in the cockpit controlling the machine girl, and a beautiful view would greet them when they looked up. He couldn't help but admire how well the race drivers in this world were treated. It can be modified. He walked to the back of the car and habitually placed his hand on the trunk. Suddenly, the girl's shy voice exclaimed, "Hey, don't touch there. It tickles." Su Chen was genuinely surprised that the machine girl's car form had such a sensitive response. Sorry. He withdrew his hand and quickly changed the subject. I'm planning to install a custom front lip and rear wing for you. The materials are limited, so I'll have to use ABS plastic sheets. Additionally, I'll cover the exposed parts of your chassis with PVC sheets. Do you understand? He hoped she would grasp it, considering she hadn't responded for quite some time. Su Chen had to approach the window, only to find the girl looking confused, with wisps of white smoke rising from her head, mumbling softly, "No, I don't understand. It's too complicated." Su Chen wondered if this being was really a machine girl. How could she be so clueless about such technical knowledge? Forget it. He shook his head and hurriedly took measurements for Star Dream. Then he began cutting and gluing the materials at the workstation. In less than an hour, the front lip and rear wing were completed. Su Chen held them up for comparison, a smirk forming on his lips, still sharp as ever. It's said that a modification expert is the core of a racing team. A skilled modifier can resolve 99% of the team's issues. So, calling himself a top-tier modifier isn't an exaggeration, right? Now that the parts are ready, I'll install them for you. Without waiting for Star Dream's response, he moved to the front of the car and bent down, clipping the front lip onto the front. The girl inside the car let out a strange sound. Su Chen didn't pay much attention to that. He then moved to the back of the car and, with a snap, secured the rear wing in place. The girl exclaimed, sounding surprised. Su Chen was speechless. Did machine girls really react like this? The purpose of the front lip is to reduce lift at the front of the car, while the rear wing increases downforce. Once these were installed, the car's grip would naturally improve, enhancing cornering speed. Next, he used a jack to lift the car body and covered the chassis entirely with PVC sheets to reduce air turbulence. Throughout this entire process, there was a continuous stream of noises from Star Dream. What should have been a straightforward installation left Su Chen sweating profusely. Unlocking talent. Divine hand. The sudden spark of realization in his mind made the pleasant thoughts disappear. Oh, it's unlocked? What is this divine hand talent? Can it turn stone into gold? The thought just formed in his mind. He saw the front lip, tail fin, and the PVC board of the Star Dream covered with a faint glow. Eventually, they combined on the ground into a white cube emitting electronic light. The modification core, Su Chen exclaimed. The modification he made for Star Dream had turned into a modification core right in front of him. Despite having no hints, he immediately understood the function of the divine hand. Any modification he made for the mech girl would ultimately aggregate into a modification core. The cube before him was a aerodynamic component modification core. He picked up the modification core, and its mechanical patterns immediately burst forth with a milky white glow, while electronic text appeared on the core. Unnamed aerodynamic component modification core. Positive effects, speed 3, cornering 3, negative effects, stability 1, endurance 3, special effects, cup size 1, hip size 10, grade, white. This modification core was created for you. Please name it. The prompt on the modification core did not come from a cheat, but was a rule of this world. Picking up the modification core would automatically connect it with the will of the star source, subsequently displaying the core's basic information in his field of vision. This information could only be seen by the creator of the modification core, and the triggering feature was the electronic patterns of the core writhing and glowing, entering developer mode, which also proved the identity of the modification creator. Additionally, due to the special status of the modifier, they had primary control over the modification core they created. Although this control was generally not exercised unless their rights were infringed, such as in the case of robbery. Suchin had seen modification cores before, but the ones he created seemed a bit different from others. Other modification cores had both positive and negative effects coexisting, or only positive effects, with no so-called special effects at all. Moreover, this special effect was quite outrageous. He glanced at Star Dream, who had been silent since the modification was completed, and somewhat understood why she made such a fuss during the modification process. He thought it would be better to come up with a proper name. After pondering for a while, an idea suddenly struck him. Yes. Let us call it Thunder 1 Modification Core. This name was powerful and fitting. As he was thinking about how to install the Thunder 1 Modification Core onto Star Dream, a swirling nebula appeared in his mind, and a second faint star emerged from it. Contract a mech girl to unlock talents. Chapter 4. Special effects. Are there still experts? Suchin squinted his eyes. Could it be that he was the chosen one of two worlds? Otherwise, why would he gain benefits from a full insurance semi-trailer encounter? And after crossing over, why would he have so many cheats? In fact, he didn't want to rely on cheats. However, the condition to awaken talent 2 was to contract a mech girl, which, to be honest, was a bit challenging for him, who was currently broke. He wouldn't be able to consider it until he had significant funds. Now it seems that he can create a modification core through divine means, so he just needs to focus on accumulating wealth as a modifier. Xingming also noticed that modification core. She felt a bit puzzled seeing the owner circling around her vehicle. Why didn't the owner take out the modification core earlier? It can't be installed when it's expanded into the vehicle form. Hey, where's the slot for the modification core? Su Chun waved the modification core around the front and rear of Xingming's vehicle, as well as at the exhaust pipe and fuel tank, only to find that it really couldn't fit. There was no fuel tank, and the exhaust pipe was different from a normal car. But if it wasn't the exhaust pipe and fuel tank, he couldn't find another spot for it for the time being. Don't you know that the modification core needs to be installed in the mechanical form, meow? Huh. Suchin was taken aback. He really didn't know. Installing it in the mechanical form? That was even stranger. Where would a modification core the size of an adult's fist go? Xingming sighed, switched to her mechanical form, and looked at the bewildered shop owner with suspicion. She wanted to question the owner's professionalism. But the owner had indeed provided the modification core and seemed not to ask for payment. Here, meow. She turned around, pulled up her tight racing suit, revealing her fair and slender waist. The dim yellow light cast an amber glow in the hollow of her waist, making Su Chun's eyes heat up and his mind go blank, until the girl placed her hands behind her back, interlocking her index fingers and thumbs to form a rectangle in the hollow of her waist. Did you see? Stick the modification core here. I can absorb it myself, meow. Su Chun instinctively followed Xingming's guidance and pressed the modification core against the spot. The moment it touched her skin, the modification core instantly transformed into a stream of light and merged into her. Xingming let go of her clothes, and Su Chen's dizzying view of her fair skin was hidden beneath the tight fabric. This modification core feels strange. Xingming adjusted her chest and found that it had actually increased in size. She turned to glance at her backside, and the peach-like curve left her dumbfounded. She originally had a rather slender figure, but now she had developed delicate curves. This was definitely not an illusion. It was definitely not that large before installing the modification core. However, as a mechanical girl, she wasn't too interested in these changes. She just found it odd. Her attention was mainly focused on the changes the modification core brought her. I feel like my limbs are stronger, meow. Xingming moved her limbs and blinked her big blue eyes at Su Chun. Boss, what's the attribute of this modification core? I can't take it down myself and can't see the information. The attributes are positive effects, speed 3, cornering 3, negative effects, stability 1, endurance 3, that's it. Su Chun rubbed his nose and still concealed the special effects. Some things were better kept to himself, no need to make them widely known. Cornering and speed +3? That's amazing. Xingming's eyes widened, her cowlick and ears perked up, and her tail behind her curled in a joyful arc. But soon, she nervously glanced at Su Chun and hesitated. Is this modification core really free? Yes, Su Chun nodded. The modifications have all been completed, and there's no room for price hikes. Besides, this machine girl doesn't have much money. Is there no other cost involved? Star Dream still feels uncertain. Su Chun carefully examined Star Dream from top to bottom twice, then suddenly said seriously, how about you become my machine girl? You can enjoy the good life with me. I'll upgrade your hardware during the day and your software at night, ensuring you won't even recognize yourself. The sudden proposal startled Stardream. She took a step back, her cheeks gradually turning red, and lowered her head, her eyes flickering before she stammered, "Boss, you are a good person, but I already have a pilot. I can't betray my pilot." "But your pilot doesn't seem to treat you well," Su Chun said, leaning against the wall and sitting on a pile of parts, shrugging. "All the machine girls that come to my shop have pilots with them. Who is as lonely as you? Besides, if the machine girl isn't performing well, it's the responsibility of both the pilot and the machine girl to find a solution. It's not solely your fault. How can you bear all the responsibility?" At his words, Stardream's expression dimmed, her frail body swaying slightly, and a bitter smile forced itself onto her face. But in the end, she shook her head firmly. "I'm sorry, boss. Loyalty is a rule ingrained in the essence of machine girls. If today I succumb to temptation and terminate my temporary contract with my pilot to become your machine girl, then I might leave you in the same way in the future. I'm saying if, one day my pilot completely abandons me, and if you still find me acceptable then, I would very much like to become your machine girl." After speaking, Stardream bowed deeply to Su Chun. She took a few steps back to the door, her cat ears drooping, and bowed again. "Thank you for your willingness to help me. I will definitely repay you in the future." Without waiting for Su Chun to respond, Stardream hurriedly disappeared at the doorway, leaving behind the little money she had on the floor by the door. "Hey, you haven't signed the purchase agreement yet," Su Chun called out. But Stardream's footsteps were already distant in the corridor. "All right then." Su Chun slapped his thigh and sighed. "I knew it wouldn't be easy to get a machine girl. The streets at night still had plenty of puddles after the rain, but for the girl eager to return, it was nothing. She dashed forward without caring, splashing water everywhere. She didn't dare to transform into vehicle mode, as it would consume more energy. If that happened, her master would scold her for wasting energy, calling her a useless spendthrift. Stardream rushed into the academy, knocked on the dormitory door, and after a while, a drunken female voice came from inside. "Who the hell is it? Can't you let me sleep at night?" "Master, it's me. I've returned from the modifications." After about half a minute, the door finally opened, revealing an impatient face. "Returned from the modifications? Where did you get the money for that?" "Master, why are you drinking again?" Stardream closed the door and helped the drunken woman to the sofa, explaining softly, "I met a really good modification shop owner. He gave me a free upgrade. It's a core modification that can enhance many attributes." The coffee table was cluttered with empty bottles, and there were discarded underwear, crumpled paper, and a few used pink umbrellas scattered around the sofa, creating a shocking scene. Xingming saw all of this and thought of something, but said nothing. As a machine girl, she had no right to interfere in the driver's life. Who would waste time modifying a piece of junk like you? For free? Dream on. The woman, heavily intoxicated, forcefully pushed Xingming aside, unleashing a stream of foul language. Perhaps it was due to her drunken state that some inappropriate words spilled out. "What a stroke of bad luck. How could the academy assign a piece of trash like you to me? Why does it have to be me? Ha ha ha, just wait. I've saved enough money. Once I pass the graduation assessment, I'll switch to a Class C machine girl in no time, and you can get as far away from me as possible." Xingming stared blankly at the woman lying on the sofa, her consciousness gradually fading as she slipped into sleep. After watching in silence for a long time, she began tidying up the messy room as usual. The academy's single dormitory was small, especially for students like this woman who didn't perform well academically, as they couldn't get a better room. The room was barely big enough for a sofa and a coffee table. In the corner, there was a small mat covered in cute cat designs, which was where she usually rested. After cleaning the room and wiping the floor, she finally sat on the small mat against the cold wall, burying her head deep in her knees, curling up as if she wanted to hide away and completely disappear from this world. Chapter 5. Abandonment. In the following 3 days, Su Chun did not encounter Xingming again. She also did not visit the modification shop. Those 3 days were just like before, even though he could now manually craft modification cores. Any driver who came with a machine girl would immediately turn away upon hearing that he didn't have a modification certificate, regardless of how eloquently he spoke. They even thought he might have mental issues. Prejudice in people's hearts can be quite severe. Su Chun slumped over the table, feeling utterly dispirited. As a transcendent being with a golden finger, and someone who had come through with full insurance, he could be considered a supreme VIP among travelers. Yet, to end up in such a miserable state was quite rare. With 3 days left to pay the rent, where could he find 8,000 units of currency? The currency in this world was called Zhuan Yuan, which represented the value of energy consumed for each rotation of an engine. The purchasing power of 8,000 units was roughly double that of his previous world and was equivalent to a quarter's rent for this remote shop. To be honest, it was quite cheap, but he simply couldn't afford it. Forget it, if worse comes to worst, I'll just do some manual labor. Su Chun gritted his teeth. Although manual labor didn't quite fit his image, the pay for such work in this world was surprisingly decent. Moreover, if he didn't start working soon. He wouldn't even be able to afford food. Su Chun took out the last few bills from the drawer, planning to head to the snack street near the League Academy for a bite to eat, as places with many students generally have better food. After eating, he would go to the talent market to look for work. Nearby, there was a League Academy, said to be the largest talent training base for a prominent local club. Perhaps he might even run into Xingming on the way. Su Chun joked to himself, hanging a closed sign at the door of his modification shop before stepping out. The modification shop was already located outside the third ring of Binzhou City, and it would take an hour on the air tram to reach the food street. Half an hour later, on the tram, Su Chun found himself pressed against the window by the crowded crowd. Looking down from the window, the entire city was divided into dense grids by wide, flat roads, with residential buildings crammed into these grids. The closer to the inner ring, the taller the buildings became, with architectural styles leaning more towards cyberpunk. These tech-filled streets were dotted with competition signs, and some roads were specifically prepared for city championships. Once the competitions began, these specially marked streets would prohibit ordinary vehicles from passing. At that time, regular traffic would be squeezed to a standstill, while temporary seating for spectators would even rise from underground around the competition streets, allowing pedestrians to stop and find a spot to watch the races. This was a world where mechanical racing was highly developed. Celebrities like singers and movie stars were nothing compared to famous drivers and their mechanical partners, with no comparable status. Sometimes, Su Chun felt that people's obsession with racing was almost pathological. After getting off the tram, he arrived at the entrance of the university town. Next to the tram station was a street full of food, and directly across was the academy's gate. Su Chun followed the crowd out, not immediately heading towards the food street. He noticed many drivers in academy uniforms gathered around a giant electronic screen with their mechanical partners. Wow, what is going on? It seems lively. The results of the academy's graduation assessments must have been announced. How enviable. An uncle besides Su Chun, also watching the commotion, shook his head and sighed. In the future, I'll sell everything I have to send my son to the League Academy, as long as he graduates successfully. He on top. The graduation assessment results were announced. Su Chun recalled that Xingming's uniform seemed to be from the League Academy. He wondered if this mechanical partner and her driver had passed the assessment. He squeezed to the front of the crowd and searched the big screen. Finally, he found Xingming in an inconspicuous corner. Student, Wang Tingting mechanical partner. Xingming, assessment score, 67 status. Qualified, graduation allowed. Oh, this little girl is quite impressive. Su Chun couldn't help but picture that cute girl who blushed easily and had a cat-like speech pattern. Xingming was surely celebrating passing the assessment with her driver right now. He quietly backed out of the crowd, his gaze fixed on a restaurant, and clenched his fist. All right, it's decided. I'm spending all my money for lunch today and treating myself to the biggest pig trotter rice. He chuckled. After all, Xingming had passed the assessment thanks to his modifications, which gave him a sense of achievement. It's like a soldier who has achieved merit on the battlefield. That feeling of satisfaction is unique to those who modify. However, Su Chun is unaware of this, as he enjoys his pork rice. Thinking about which construction site to work at in the afternoon, in a selection store just a street away, Xingming stands anxiously in the center of the hall, alongside other confused beings, waiting for her unknown fate. When a phone gets old, it's replaced with a new one, as long as there's money. If a machine's performance is insufficient, rather than slowly nurturing attributes and collecting materials to upgrade, it's better to directly buy a higher grade one. Affordable prices, stylish looks, and a completely new driving experience await. Each graduation season is the peak business time for selection stores. About 1/3 of the students who pass the graduation assessment come to buy new machines. The highest grade available at the selection store is C grade. Anything above that usually appears only at auctions. For machines that are eliminated and discarded, they typically have 3 options. One is to join the city's logistics system, becoming a logistical machine, which is undoubtedly a painful experience. From the moment a machine is born, the idea of being a champion is imprinted as the highest honor. Becoming a logistical machine means giving up dreams and aspirations. The second option is to go back to the factory, similar to a factory reset, where all memories are erased, and the core returns to the sea of stars. The final path is to carve out a way for themselves, earning money to upgrade their core until they meet a driver willing to contract with them. This path is also difficult because the jobs that allow machines to quickly accumulate resources are mostly in the gray market, but it does not include selling their bodies. Selling one's body is strictly prohibited. Once discovered, machines are sent for forced reconditioning, and clients face the death penalty. Therefore, while machines can generally only earn money through underground competitions, however, these competitions offer no safety guarantees, and a moment of carelessness can lead to total destruction. If a machine is destroyed and not repaired by a modifier, it can only be reconditioned. Xingming didn't wait long before seeing Wang Tingting come out of the selection room, accompanied by a machine. She was momentarily stunned, her body trembling slightly, already sensing what was about to happen. Xingming, let me introduce you to Jin's son, my new machine, D-grade. Wang Tingting, dressed glamorously, looked nothing like the disheveled person from 3 days ago. She was in a good mood. First, she passed the assessment smoothly. And then she acquired a machine she liked at a suitable price. It truly was a double blessing. Oh no, it should be called a triple blessing. She could finally be rid of Xingming, whose performance made her want to vomit. Although Jin's son wasn't TC grade, she was just a step away from it. And the cost-performance ratio was excellent. Jin's son. Xingming stared blankly at the machine. From Jin's son's gaze, she sensed a hint of pity and helplessness. As a fellow machine, Jin's son didn't wish to replace Xingming. She understood that Xingming would be abandoned, and in the future, she too might face the same fate. However, as just a D-grade machine, she didn't have the privilege of choosing her driver like those A-grade and S-grade machines. Moreover, she had already gone through such experiences. Initial mech girls were generally not retained by trainees, and she had long come to terms with it. Then, master, what should I do? Xingming's gaze shifted away from the golden falcon, still holding on to a glimmer of hope as she stared blankly at the indifferent woman in front of her. You're free now. Wang Tingting tossed a temporary contract on Xingming's face. I've tolerated you as a burden for 1.5 years, and I've had enough. Go wherever you want. It's best if you disappear from my sight immediately. Her words were like a knife, scraping tears from Xingming's eyes. She took a deep breath, using all her strength to prevent herself from losing composure in public, her lips trembling, teeth clattering softly. Yet tears still slowly flowed down, plopping onto the ground and soaking the scattered contract paper. By the way, Wang Tingting stepped forward and swiftly extracted the modification core from Xingming's waist. Ignoring Xingming's sorrow and shock, she merely smiled coldly. This modification core is useless to you. It's better off with the golden falcon. All right, you can leave now. And don't let me see you again. The 2 cold words slowly escaped her lips, becoming the final straw that broke Xingming. Waste. Chapter 6. Be my mech girl. Sure enough, no matter which world it is, rice bowls are the salvation for workers like me. Su Chen stepped out of the restaurant, feeling invigorated despite his earlier fatigue. It was time to get to work. Outside the third ring road, there were many new racetracks under construction, and operating robots to move bricks could guarantee at least 1,000 yuan a day. However, this job wasn't for everyone. It required some computer knowledge and driving skills. Initially, he couldn't do it until he took the robot for a spin on the site and even flipped it over. The boss was instantly amazed, even thinking he could participate in racing competitions. As for why he, Su Chun, could drive, he was still a top modification specialist. Although his skills couldn't compare to real top racers, understanding car issues was an essential skill. Only by truly understanding cars could one modify them well, otherwise, it would all be just theoretical. Su Chun called the construction site boss, and after 3 months, the boss was still very enthusiastic upon hearing he was coming. After confirming the location, he boarded the aerial train. He didn't notice that a mech girl with cat ears, who had only 2 silver coins left, also boarded the train, just 1 compartment away from him. Once off the train, Su Chen's first task was to buy drinks at a nearby supermarket. He didn't need to rush since it wasn't time to start working yet. As he carefully selected drinks and fell into a dilemma, he didn't notice a stray hair floating slowly past the glass window behind the shelf. When Su Chun arrived at the boss's office with drinks and was about to knock on the door, he heard the boss's helpless voice from inside. Sorry, we don't hire machine girls here. Another voice immediately followed, soft and somewhat familiar, filled with pleading and flattery. But didn't your hiring notice say that as long as you're an adult, there are no other restrictions? I'm really strong. I can lift more than robots. If it doesn't work out, you can give me half the salary. It's not that simple. The boss sighed. Young lady, we have a clear regulation that prohibits the use of machine girls as labor. If we're found out, I could lose my job. It's not that I don't want to give you a job. I simply can't. Why? I just want a job. The voice suddenly dropped. Su Chen finally realized why this voice was familiar. It was Star Dream's voice. That soft meow was like an ID card. But why was Star Dream here looking for work? What about her driver? Su Chen knocked on the door and pretended not to know as he pushed open the half-closed door. The balding, plump boss's expression changed drastically upon seeing Su Chen enter. He quickly waved his hand. Su Chen, listen, I did not hire a machine girl as an employee. I rejected her. So don't go telling the Labor Protection Association on me. Boss, do you think I'm that kind of person? Su Chen smiled as he walked over to Star Dream. The girl instinctively looked up, and her previously sorrowful face instantly brightened, as if she had seen a rainbow. Her ears and tail perked up. Boss, she exclaimed softly, her eyelashes fluttering, clearly still processing why the modification shop owner was here. Do you two know each other? The balding boss's gaze shifted between Su Chun and Star Dream, suddenly revealing a meaningful smile to Su Chun. Not bad, kid. Is this a surprise for me? 3 months ago, I said you were cut out for working with machine girls. And you really brought one here? Young people sure know how to have fun. Even sending a machine girl to scare me. The boss shook his head, giving Su Chen a look that said he still needed to practice. But unfortunately, the test has failed. The reason I've reached my current position is because of being cautious and careful. I absolutely don't take small risks I shouldn't. And I definitely don't make mistakes I shouldn't. You misunderstood. I'm not. Before he could finish, Su Chen shot a sideways glare at Star Dream. Star Dream, startled by that look, took half a step back, drooping her cat ears and shrinking her head, holding back her words. Su Chen understood the boss quite well and knew he was about to start bragging about his glorious journey from a laborer to a foreman, which would inevitably turn into a half-hour-long monologue. He had already heard it once and found it hard to endure a second time. He directly took Star Dream's hand and interrupted the boss's storytelling. Boss, it's time to start work. I'll take my machine girl to prepare. I brought her along today, mainly to keep her from getting bored at home. I see. The balding boss gave Su Chen a thumbs up and then told Star Dream, you have a great driver, willing to endure hardships to earn money without complaint, and also considering your feelings at home. If you encounter such a driver, just marry him, huh? Hearing this, Xingming's face turned red to the roots of her ears. Just as she wanted to explain, Su Chen had already pulled her out. Behind the construction site warehouse, there was a patch of woods where few people ventured. Su Chen left Xingming in the clearing while he found a tree stump to sit on, his scrutinizing gaze sweeping up and down. Then he spoke 3 words. Go ahead. Xingming bit her lip, looking down at her toes. Tiny beads of sweat glistening on the tip of her nose in the sunlight. What should I say? Why are you here? Where did your driver go? Didn't you pass the graduation assessment? I did pass. Xingming's voice carried a hint of bitterness, the shadows under her eyelashes spreading like dark clouds. Unshed tears trapped like butterflies in a glass dome, struggling yet unable to escape. She took a gentle breath, trying to swallow down those emotions quietly, the corners of her mouth lifting into a forced, carefree arc. Didn't he get along with my previous driver, so after the competition ended, we discussed it seriously and parted ways. Is that so? Su Chen sighed. Are you sure she didn't initiate the breakup? Sure. The girl's voice lacked any conviction. A silence fell between them, like an invisible wall. Su Chen smashed through it with a punch. What is the point of making money now? You no longer have a driver. I want to become stronger. A breeze swept through the woods, lifting Xingming's snow-white hair like a crushed cloud drifting beside her pale cheek. Within that fragmented cloud, a pair of eyes reflecting withered leaves flickered in and out of sight, the depths shimmering with broken light, like a shattered starry sky. She murmured softly, I don't want to be abandoned again. As long as I'm strong enough, as long as my performance is good enough, I should be able to find a driver who will never leave me, right? Xingming herself wasn't certain, so the fragmented light in her eyes gradually blurred. Su Chen silently watched the girl for a moment before suddenly saying, Do you remember what you told me? Without waiting for her answer, he mimicked Xingming's tone, saying, Oh boss, if one day my driver abandons me, and if at that time you still think I'm good, I would love to become your mech girl. Xingming was taken aback, 2 flames leaping in her bright eyes, as if someone had thrown a torch into the darkness, but those flames flickered uncertainly, seeming as if they could be snuffed out with a light pinch. But I'm just a D class, not an A class. I'm not that kind of mech girl. Su Chen stood up and walked in front of Xingming. Perhaps he had better choices, but as a modifier, he had witnessed too many scrap cars reborn in his hands. While everyone else was choosing mech girls based on performance, he swam against the current. He knew he never needed to choose, for his strength came from within. Xingming felt a gentle palm on her head, the touch so tender it seemed capable of melting everything. She instinctively squinted her eyes, suppressing the urge to nuzzle against it. But her tail swayed lightly on its own. I think you're really great, the person said. Become my mech girl. Xingming would always remember this day. The wind in the forest is gentle like silk, and the sunlight is not so harsh. The rays filtering through the branches and leaves outline Su Chen with a soft golden edge. His smile, backlit and unclear, is complemented by a voice that is clear and powerful. In this moment, it seems to carry the warmth of the sun as well. Chapter 7. The Eye of the God, I Might Hold You Back. Xingming recalled how enthusiastic and sincere Wang Tingting was when she made a temporary contract with her back then. At that time, she truly believed she had met a very good driver who would patiently encourage her even if they lost the race. However, as the number of failed assessments increased, much of that warmth gradually turned into cold, sharp knives. You can't say that. The mech girls can be upgraded, right? Su Chen stroked his chin and said, I remember that upgrading from D to C level only requires meeting the attribute standards plus a corresponding attribute star essence. Isn't that difficult? To smoothly integrate his work into this world, he had also briefly supplemented some knowledge about mech girls, though it was just a surface understanding. Yes, it's quite difficult. Xingming lowered her head and pouted. To meet the attribute standards, one has to upgrade. The better the mech girl, the lower the modification cost. For someone like me, it would cost a lot of money. Moreover, star essences are special resources that can only be obtained by ranking high in competitions. As a D level, she would definitely come in last in any moderately sized competition. The more she spoke, the sadder she became, her voice growing quieter, feeling utterly worthless. She didn't want to be Su Chen's mech girl. She was just afraid that her clumsiness would disappoint the owner of the modification shop. She didn't want to see that look of disappointment and rejection again. Having gained and lost, she would rather not have it at all. Oh, so you're afraid of spending money? Su Chen's eyes twinkled as he leaned in closer, smiling and coaxing. I'm a modifier. And I can tell you that modifications don't actually cost that much. The market price is at least 10 times higher than the cost, and as a modifier, I get materials at base price. Don't worry. Really? Xingming looked at Su Chen with wide eyes, her fingers repeatedly rubbing the hem of her clothes. She didn't understand the modification costs well, only knowing that the owner had given her one for free. Perhaps, as the owner said, modifying a mech girl doesn't cost the modifier much? Then, maybe I can give it a try? As the saying goes, a muddy wall can't be propped up, but a lot of mud can be used. Of course it's true. Su Chen straightened up, speaking earnestly, Comrade Xingming. A driver's self-worth comes from constantly sprinting for victory on the track. Do you know what a modifier's self-worth is? Xingming stared blankly at Su Chen, tilting her little head. I don't know. It's about making the mech girl stronger. Su Chen patted Xingming's shoulder and continued to entice her. So, do you think it's more fulfilling to upgrade an A-level mech girl to SSS level, or to upgrade a D-level mech girl to SSS level? Xingming tilted her head and thought for a while, seemingly making a serious comparison. After a while, she timidly glanced at Su Chen and said uncertainly, maybe modifying D to SSS would feel more rewarding? Yes, exactly. Su Chen seized the opportunity to hold the girl's cold little hand, forcing their eyes to meet. So, Xiongming, are you willing to contribute to the realization of my ideals and self-worth? Meow? Xiongming's face turned slightly red, and she instinctively turned her head away. The man's enthusiasm was overwhelming. His eager gaze felt like a blazing fire, making it hard for her to look him in the eye. I don't really mind. As long as you don't find me bothersome, Xiongming murmured softly. She had thought she was dispensable to Su Chen. But now it seemed he really needed her, and this sense of being needed gave her a slight boost of confidence. Of course I won't find you bothersome, Su Chen said joyfully. Finally, he managed to win over this little cat girl. He smiled like a mischievous wolf, squeezing Xiongming's soft little hand. But how do we make a contract with you, mech girl? Xiongming explained briefly. In 10 minutes, I'll give you a simple overview. There are mainly 3 forms of contracts for mech girls. The first is a temporary written contract, like the one I have with Wang Tingting. The second is a more advanced bond contract, and the third is the highest level, a soul contract. The differences among these 3 are significant. The first type can be dissolved at any time, and neither party needs a reason or bears responsibility. The relationship relies entirely on mutual awareness and conscience. The second type is a bit more complex. Both parties need sufficient reasons and motives to dissolve the contract, such as if the mech girl is scrapped or the driver can no longer participate in competitions, and this type is often tied to club agreements and personal agreements. The third type can only be signed if the mech girl volunteers, and once signed, it cannot be dissolved, meaning the mech girl willingly binds herself to the driver forever. This type of contract is only signed when the mech girl has absolute trust in the driver. Su Chen's requirements were not high. He would be quite satisfied with signing the first type of contract with Xiongming. They could upgrade later as their relationship improved. After all, one can't rush things. At the cash register of the modification shop, the two sat facing each other, the atmosphere serious yet somewhat amusing. Xiongming, I've thought about it carefully, and I think we should sign the first type of contract. That way, you'll have a bit more freedom. Su Chen looked seriously at the cat girl across from him. If there's anything you find unacceptable, you can leave at any time. Though I don't think that situation will arise. Why are you crying? Before he finished speaking, Xiongming's expression darkened, and tears began to well up in her eyes. Signing the first type of agreement meant she could be easily discarded, just like her previous driver. Su Chen quickly waved his hands. I didn't mean that at all. Then let's sign the second type. In fact, what he really wanted was to sign the third type. Just thinking about having a cat girl who could transform into a racing car was exhilarating. But that was just a thought. Xiongming would definitely not agree. After all, they had only known each other for a few days. Since Su Chen didn't have a club, they could skip the most complicated part of the club agreement and simply go to the local mech insurance association to witness and sign the contract. There is only one organization for mechanical protection in Binzhou City, conveniently located near the Star Crown League Academy. After greeting the construction site owner, Su Chen left with Xingming. The owner didn't say much. In his view, Su Chen was just showing off his mechanical companion. It's understandable for young people. If he had a mechanical companion when he was young, he would have announced it to the world, not sparing even a stray dog. The abbreviation for the Mechanical Protection Association is a body that oversees second and third category contracts, disputes between mechanical companions and operators, and the protection of basic rights for mechanical companions. The premise for discussing basic rights is that the mechanical companion and the operator have signed a second category or higher contract. If it's a first category contract, then the association cannot intervene. The signing process is straightforward. Su Chun signs an electronic agreement provided by the staff, and Xing Ming saves a copy in her memory. After that, Su Chun just needs to tap his fingerprint on Xing Ming's tail, which acts like a start button. Once the fingerprint is successfully recorded, it counts as signing the bond contract. From then on, no one else can operate Xing Ming except Su Chun. The contract process takes less than 10 minutes and goes very smoothly. From now on, you will be my mechanical companion, Xing Ming. Please take care of me. At the entrance of the Mechanical Protection Association, Su Chun solemnly extends his hand to Xing Ming. It's also Xing Ming's first time entering into this second type of contractual relationship, feeling both nervous and dreamy. She nudges her toes on the ground and reaches out to hold on to one of Su Chun's fingers. Her fluffy cat ears perk up happily, but her voice remains small. I'm sorry, no thank you. Please take care of me, master. The moment she softly addresses him as master, a second star lights up in his mind. Unlock talent, Divine Eye, Divine Eye. Previously, the talent Divine Hand allowed him to modify cores by hand. So, does Divine Eye grant him the ability to see through things? He instinctively looks at Xing Ming. Nothing seems to happen in terms of seeing through, but a virtual screen appears in his vision. Mechanical Companion Information Name, Xing Ming Star Emblem, Radiant Light, Team Boost Type, Speed, 47, Bending, 54, Stability, 42, Explosion, 35, Endurance, 51, Modification Core, none, Stigmata, none, Current Level, D, Special Talents, 1, Not Activated, 2, Catgirl Form Specialization, 3, Silent Movement, Frequency, 5, Status, Listless, Evaluation, Fluffy and Soft, Suitable for warming the bed, Competing on the field? Forget it. She has already specialized as a catgirl. What more could one want? You can't have it all. So this is Divine Eye? It allows him to see the specific information of mechanical companions. At this moment, there are quite a few mechanical companions at the entrance of the Mechanical Protection Association, and Su Chun casually looks at another mechanical companion. Mecha Girl Information Name, Golden Falcon Star Emblem, Flowing Flame, Speed Type, Speed, 57, Cornering, 43, Stability, 52, Burst, 45, Endurance, 47, Modification Core, Thunder 1, White, Stigmata, none, Current Level, D Grade, Special Talent, none, Synchronization Rate, 0, Status, Energetic, Evaluation, quite average. Su Chun blinked. It seemed he saw something worth noting. The Thunder 1 module. How did the modification core he crafted for Star Dream end up with this mecha girl named Golden Falcon? Just as he was about to turn around and ask Star Dream for clarification, he noticed Star Dream was hiding behind him, her head lowered, clutching a corner of his clothing, as if she wanted to shrink into the shadow behind him. Star Dream, what's wrong? Su Chin's gaze briefly lingered on the man and woman beside Golden Falcon before he looked back at his own mecha girl with concern. Are you feeling unwell? Master. We should leave, Star Dream said, biting her lip tightly. She tried to act composed and strong, but her voice trembled like leaves in an autumn breeze. That woman must be your previous pilot, Wang Tingting, right? From Star Dream's reaction, Su Chun had already guessed almost everything. His expression suddenly turned cold. She abandoned you. And even took your modification core? Star Dream lowered her head in silence, her cat ears and tail drooping lifelessly. This silence was undoubtedly a tacit admission. This is outrageous. A cold glint flashed in Su Chen's eyes as he turned to see the pair and their mecha girl entering the Mecha Maintenance Association. But he didn't care about that. He grabbed Star Dream's hand and chased after them. Star Dream was pulled along by Su Chun, her mind turning into a muddled mess. Master, what are you going to do? What am I going to do? Su Chun didn't look back. I'm going to confront her. Inside the Mecha Maintenance Association, Xiao Ting, that mecha girl just now should be the one you had before, right? I think her name was Star Dream. A blonde guy beside Wang Tingting suddenly asked. His name was Lin Haijun, one of the sponsors who had supported Wang Tingting over the years. The money he spent on her could circle the Star Alliance Academy several times. Given how much he had invested, he had already become Wang Tingting's regular cash cow. A third of the money Wang Tingting used to buy Golden Falcon came from him. Seems like it. Oh, I didn't even notice. Wang Tingting forced a fake smile. She had noticed, but didn't want to bring it up. She felt that being Star Dream's former pilot was a dark history. So she proactively changed the subject. Lin Gu, what about the basic star element you prepared for her? She did everything you asked last night. No backing out now. Lin Haijun looked at Wang Tingting's delicate demeanor and felt a rush of excitement. He knew she wasn't a good person, but he liked her flirtatious charm. After all, he wasn't going to marry her, and as a girlfriend, she was quite competent, especially in various action games, with no taboos. Don't worry. ISNT, they're an underground competition in Binjo City recently. The top 3 rewards include a choice of a basic star element. Lin Haijun casually wrapped his arm around Wang Tingting's waist and said with a smirk, I remember the emblem of Jin's sun is flowing flame, right? Then let's get Jin's sun a beginner flowing flame star core, ensuring she can smoothly advance to sea level. Humph, brother Lin, you're so nice. Wang Tingting beamed and leaned in to give a quick peck on Lin's neck. Lin Haijun felt a rush of excitement. Thinking that once Wang Tingting and Jin's son signed the contract, he would definitely take her nearby to book a room for a lively family meeting. Just as the two were lost in their thoughts, a tall man with a stern expression suddenly blocked their path. Lin Haijun was already about 178 meters tall, but this man was even taller by a head. The overwhelming sense of pressure made Lin Haijun feel uneasy. The man was Su Chun, with Xing Ming following closely behind. She tightly clutched Su Chen's arm, peeking out with a bewildered expression, looking like a startled rabbit. Hand over the modification core, Su Chen said coldly. Getting straight to the point. Modification core? What modification core? Wang Tingting was taken aback, staring at Su Chun and Xing Ming for a moment before quickly reacting. Oh, Xing Ming, did you just find a big fool and can't wait to have him support you, the useless one? Slap. Wang Tingting's words were abruptly cut off by a resounding slap. Lin Haijun, startled, took a step back and shouted, What are you doing? What do you want? Stop it. If you hit my girlfriend again, I will call the police. Shut up, or I'll hit you too. Su Chun raised his arm again. Don't. Lin Haijun retreated another step. If you hit my girlfriend, you can't hit me. Su Chun was taken aback by his response. Wait, this guy looks decent, but turns out to be a total coward? The slap had drawn a crowd, and soon people gathered around. Wang Tingting covered half of her face, shook her buzzing head, and after a while focused her gaze on Su Chun, suddenly screaming, You hit me. How dare you hit me? I'm calling the police. I'll notify the security team right now. Calling the security team, huh? Without further ado, Su Chun walked straight up to Jin's son, and with a wave of his hand, he exercised the primary control of the modification master to extract the number 1 Thunder modification core. Go ahead, shout. This modification core was lent to Xing Ming, and not only did you abandon her, but you also took the modification core I lent her for yourself? Su Chun raised his right hand, sneering. You're robbing a modification master, huh? Let us see whether the security team will arrest you or me. At that moment, the modification core began to spin spontaneously at his fingertips, with the star patterns fully lit up, entering developer mode, proving that he was indeed the creator of this modification core. Why, you are the modification master of this core. Wang Tingting's expression changed as she looked at the core in developer mode, her tone softening. Did Xing Ming not buy this modification core? How did it become borrowed? Still not giving up? Su Chun snapped his fingers, and an electronic voice immediately sounded from the modification core. Purchase agreement status. Not signed. The modification core taken from the Golden Falcon is under the primary control of the developer. If the core that was sold had a purchase agreement signed, then this action would be a serious violation of the law, and the modifier would face imprisonment. However, that day, the Star Dream was in such a rush that there was no time to sign the purchase agreement. To put it bluntly, this modification core still belongs to him, and he can reclaim it at any time. Wang Tingting was completely stunned. She initially thought she had found a bargain, but it turned out to be a ticking time bomb. This modification core, which significantly enhances one attribute while slightly lowering others, is considered top tier regardless of its grade. She was thinking how lucky Star Dream was to have found such a good modification core on that trip. But she really needed this modification core to compete in the city championship. With this core, the Golden Falcon's attributes would almost reach the threshold for promotion to Class C. And only by reaching Class C could she hope to stand out in the city championship. Finding another modification core that fits the Golden Falcon so well would be difficult. With this thought, Wang Tingting softened her attitude a bit and added a hint of pleading. Master Modifier, there might be a little misunderstanding between us. Mainly, I didn't know this modification core was borrowed. How about this? You name a price, and I'll buy the modification core right now. Initially, she thought Su Chun was the new pilot of Star Dream, but upon realizing that Su Chun was the modifier, she dismissed that idea. She only thought that Star Dream couldn't repay the modification core and had no choice but to bring the modifier along. Generally, there are very few modifiers who are also drivers, and it wouldn't be likely for them to take an interest in a Class D like Star Dream. After all, modifiers know best how troublesome a machine girl like Star Dream can be. Is this modification core very important to you? Su Chun weighed the modification core in his hand. Wang Tingting nodded eagerly. Very important. All right. Su Chen's smile suddenly vanished, and his hand tightened. Crack. He opened his palm. Fragments of the modification core fell to the ground with a clatter, turning into specks of light and completely disappearing. The surroundings fell into a dead silence. Everyone stared in shock at this scene until a cold voice broke the silence. I'd rather smash it than sell it to you, idiot. Chapter 9. See you on the track. After the silence, an uproar ensued. This is a modification core, one of the most important resources for machine girls. Although it was just a white modification core, for Wang Tingting and Star Dream, who had just graduated from the League Academy, a white modification core was already excellent equipment. Especially since this white modification core had quite good attributes. If it were to be sold, it would start at a minimum of 20 to 30,000 currency units. Families that could send their children to the League Academy usually have some money. However, asking a graduate to spend over 10,000 currency units on a modification core is still too extravagant. After all, the daily maintenance and care expenses for a machine girl are not small. And trying to save a little money means having to live a frugal life alongside the machine girl. Most drivers can't bear to see their machines looking so miserable every day. But now, right in front of them, the modification core has been crushed. Xingming felt her heartbeat slow for a moment with the destruction of the core, realizing that Su Chun had suffered a significant loss, not knowing that without proof. Su Chen's modification core couldn't be sold at all. No, what are you doing? Wang Tingting exclaimed, pointing at Su Chun. Is it really necessary? You want to sell it even for money. Is it worth doing this for her? Does she deserve it? You're not even her driver. Su Chun looked directly at Wang Tingting. I am Xingming's driver. His voice was low but firm, carrying a hint of pride. Moreover, Xingming has signed a bond contract with me. Wang Tingting felt as if she had been struck by lightning, standing frozen in place, unable to comprehend. After a while, she finally snapped back to reality and scoffed. Wait, buddy, what are you after? She asked, just a D-class machine, not even qualified to participate in the city championship. Even if you give her a modification core, her attributes can barely reach C-class. Why do you need a contract with her? Wang Tingting's words hit Xingming like a cold shower, making her shiver and step back, almost losing her balance, but a warm hand gently steadied her. Who says Xingming can't participate in the city championship? Su Chun's indifferent gaze pierced through Wang Tingting's swollen face. There are no naturally born SSS-class machines. Even a D-class machine can excel with proper training. I will take her to the city championship. As the chief modification engineer, he saw no worthless machines. It was merely a matter of having the right funds and materials. As long as the resources were in place, he could modify anything, even a rocket. All right. Wang Tingting laughed in frustration, her words becoming somewhat incoherent. I'm actually looking forward to seeing you on the track. But don't blame Xingming for not reaching C-class and ending up in the audience. We will compete. Su Chun's tone was resolute, as if stating a fact. Xingming tightly grasped Su Chun's fingers and slowly looked up. Through her blurry tears, that tall figure appeared to her like a towering tree, shielding her from the wind and rain. An unprecedented emotion surged within her, a mix of guilt for her own cowardice and retreat. Master had already stood resolutely in front of her, blocking all malice. Should she still back down? Should she still be afraid? She stopped trembling. For the first time, she looked at Wang Tingting with the eyes of a competitor. There was no humility, no fear, only the blazing fire of shame fueling her resolve. Wang Tingting, you bad person, we'll meet on the track, she said each word clearly. After finishing, she hoisted the bewildered Su Chen up. Master, let us go? It wasn't until the two disappeared at the entrance of the Machine Protection Association that Wang Tingting snapped back from her humiliation. She covered her swollen cheek and cursed under her breath. Damn it, it's just a lousy modification engineer. What else with the attitude? Let us see if he can really take that broken machine to the city championship. Initially, she only wanted to achieve a passable result in the city championship. Now, she had changed her mind. She aimed to secure a top 3 finish in the championship. The status of ordinary drivers is not as high as that of tuners. But once she ranks among the top 3 in the urban championship, then those tuners who can only produce white cores won't matter much. Tuners also need to make a living. They require drivers and mechas for advertising. Otherwise, with so many tuner shops, why would drivers bring their mechas to yours? Lin Gu, you have to help me. Help me place in the urban championship, or else I won't have the face to live. Wang Tingting shook the arm of the blonde beside her, her eyes filled with pity. She was quite displeased with Lin Haijun's earlier weakness. But thinking of the times she might still need him, she could only pretend not to see and bury her dissatisfaction deep inside. I'll help you, of course. Lin Haijun felt guilty and hurriedly said, Tingting, don't worry, I'll definitely help you with the matter of Lu Yang Xingyuan. Once the Golden Falcon reaches sea level, I'll arrange a green-grade tuning core for you. We don't need that white trash tuning core. Lin Gu, you're the best. Wang Tingting nestled into Lin Haijun's embrace, secretly determined. Just wait. Once she wins the urban championship, becomes a star driver in Binzhou, and joins the Xingguan Club, she will definitely find that shop for tuning and make it go out of business, disappearing from Binzhou altogether. In a moment of impulsiveness, Xingming felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. Master, I'm so sorry, I've caused you trouble. On the maglev train, Xingming kept knocking her forehead against the window. Feeling downcast, I shouldn't have said those things without being prepared. It must have put a lot of pressure and trouble on you, right? If I can't get on the track, I'll be laughed at for life, and I'll have wasted a tuning core for you. What are you apologizing for? Su Chen rolled his eyes, pressed Xingming's shoulders to straighten her up, and made her look him in the eye. May I ask, who am I? You. You are my master, Xingming said, not quite used to staring into Su Chen's intense eyes, quickly blushing and turning her gaze away. No, what I mean is, what is my profession? Your profession. Xingming blinked her big eyes, hesitating. Is it driver? Oh no, it's my master, meow. Su Chen replied. I am a tuner. He cleared his throat and said seriously, as a tuner, do you think I would lack something like a tuning core? If it's destroyed, it's destroyed. I'll just make another one when I get back to the shop. And as for the pressure of the competition, there's no need to worry. Without pressure, where's the motivation? Comrade Xingming, it's time for both of us to work hard together. Let's go? Oh, let's go? Xingming felt truly inspired and mimicked Su Chen, tightening her fist and waving it a couple of times, but then tilted her head in confusion. But master, can a tuning core be made just like that? I heard that the success rate for tuners to produce tuning cores isn't very high. If there are constant failures, wouldn't that waste materials? Materials cost money too, right? Well, Su Chen was momentarily stunned. It seemed that he wouldn't fail in making tuning cores. After all, his method of creating tuning cores was completely different from that of the tuners in this world, and not all tuners could produce tuning cores. Most tuners in the world are merely core dealers with a tuning certificate and knowledge. Those who can actually create tuning cores hold a higher status. He previously lacked both a certificate and the ability to awaken this skill, otherwise he wouldn't be in a situation where he can't even pay rent. You don't need to worry, I have plenty of materials. Su Chen spoke nonsense with his eyes wide open. In reality, he didn't have much material left. If there were a probability of successfully creating a tuning core, he might face a setback. However, he has always maintained an optimistic attitude that there will be a way when he reaches the mountain. Regardless of the situation, he first needed to coax Xingming back. As a pure tuner, the happiest moment is probably when the modified racing car he worked on shines in a competition, leaving everyone else in the dust. Su Chen enjoyed this moment. Therefore, when Xingming became his machine girl, his mind was filled with various flashy operations, determined to get Xingming on the track and make those drivers who look down on her drop their jaws in surprise. But ideals are often grand, while reality is stark. Currently, the most authoritative and official entry-level competition worldwide is called the Urban Championship. This competition is held in every main urban area, with strict control over the difficulty of the tracks. Although it can't guarantee that every urban area's track is identical, it ensures that the difficulty levels do not differ significantly. To participate in the Urban Championship with Xingming is useless to just talk about it. There is a problem. Only C-grade machine girls are qualified for the Urban Championship. Xingming is D-grade, strictly speaking, a D-grade machine girl. So he needed to upgrade Xingming. The condition for upgrading from D to C requires one performance to reach the passing line, as well as a corresponding primary star emblem with the same attribute. Xingming's star emblem is Radiant, which requires a Radiant Star core. At that moment, Xingming was happily sipping a can of orange-flavored high-energy nutrient solution, her little feet swinging gently while sitting on the stool. Noticing Su Chen's gaze, she twitched her cat ears, tilted her little head, and meowed. Ba, form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Su Chen silently recited this 3 times and withdrew his gaze, feeling a bit troubled. If the passing line is 60, all 5 of Xingming's attributes are below standard, and not by a small margin. The only one close to passing is her cornering performance. He zhongli le sushir, zhi lir chu le, jie xiaolai yao zodik shuqing, yi ban zai zhu shang ji xia, yi ban digug jug, shou shan, zui hao ning jun bei duo tao gai zhang fan. Qi zhong yi tao, bishu rong xingmeng de wan dao su xing song 60 rong ho, song san long cha cha, zui jing yo meo zhang li chu ji xin de gong kai sat, zhen dui xing, shi yong gai zhang her xin, qir bao, neng ge de, chu ji xin zhang li, jiang, ding gai, wen zhao wen da, zhang xingmeng, ti sheng dao si ji, yi ji, zui zhong yao de yi tao, su chen tan le ko cheat, zai zhu shang, hua le ge lao cao de feng shang pan, do chong yerluk, what, kurenang de zhen hai de kao jia zhao chapter 10. Second modification master. It feels a bit strange. Meow, there's nothing strange about it. This is how it should be during modifications. You need to get used to it. But I still feel a bit embarrassed. Alright, enough chit-chat. Let's be serious. I'm about to start. In the modification room, the night light streamed through the window, casting mottled shadows. The vehicle, Star Dream, had transformed into racing form, elevated by 2 jacks to about 1.5 meters, with its 4 tires and chassis suspended in the air. Su Chen furrowed his brows, holding a flashlight and a wrench, pacing around the body of Star Dream with eyes sharp as an eagle. Once in work mode, he shed his usual carefree demeanor, leaving only seriousness and focus. Last time, I noticed your tires weren't up to par. As a racing car meant for competitions, You should at least have semi-slick tires. Once the tires are changed, your cornering performance should definitely improve. Tires may seem like a minor component on a racing car, but they significantly impact performance. Good tires can enhance cornering capability and even improve the driver's road feel. However, Suchin himself didn't have much of a road feel. After all, aside from being a modifier, he was just an ordinary person with average driving skills. Nevertheless, he knew which tires would suit Star Dream. Are we really going to change the tires, Meow? Star Dream's voice sounded a bit nervous. That's right. As he spoke, Suchin skillfully removed the tires and used a pressure release valve to let the air out of the factory-installed wheels. The wheel rims could still be useful. However, due to limited conditions, he skipped the maintenance of the rims. He noticed that even though the tires were already on the tire changer, there was still a faint photon connection between the wheels and Star Dream's body. It seemed that the vehicle's form had a normal tactile sensation throughout. Suchin couldn't help but wonder if, even with the wheels removed and away from the body, Star Dream might still feel something? That would be a bit scary. As it turned out, he wasn't wrong. When the tire changer's blades separated the tire bead, Star Dream suddenly let out a soft yelp. Much like a cat stepping on its tail. What's wrong? Does it hurt? Suchin paused for a moment, turning to observe Star Dream's state. From this angle, he could see the girl in the cockpit lowering her head, her pretty face slightly flushed, with her cat ears perked up high. No, it doesn't hurt, Meow. It just feels icy cold. It's the first time I felt this. Oh, as long as it doesn't hurt. Suchin continued to remove the second tire. His movements much gentler, while casually asking, by the way, what part of your body do the wheels correspond to in your machine form? Is it the butt? How could it be the butt, Meow? Ignoring Star Dream's flustered reaction, Suchin continued. Then where is it? The head? Ribs? Duodenum? Don't guess randomly, Meow. It's the feet. The little paws, Meow. Got it. So it's like us humans taking off our shoes. Suchin pretended to realize something. A smirk forming at the corner of his mouth. He understood. He was just trying to lighten the atmosphere seeing Star Dream's nervousness. It seemed that the effect was quite good. The X1 type semi-slick tire is considered an entry-level semi-slick tire in this world. According to his experience, the strength of this tire is similar to that of the previous generation of high-performance street tires. The source was a nearby junkyard, where the old man didn't recognize its value, allowing him to find a treasure. If he were to buy a new one, it would cost around 2,000 yuan. The process of changing tires was second nature to Suchin, somewhat monotonous. However, from Xingming's perspective, it was quite the opposite. Her mind was blank, only feeling that Suchin was repeatedly fiddling with her wheels. Suddenly, the rim became hot, and a sticky, scorching substance enveloped the entire rim, which should be the tire bead of the new tire mentioned by the master. This was her first time changing a tire, and she couldn't quite describe the feeling, but it felt quite pleasant. She didn't know how much time had passed before she could fully appreciate this novel sensation. Suchin's voice suddenly rang in her ear. All right, it's done. Meow. So fast. An hour has already passed. Suchin raised an eyebrow and tapped on the car window. As a professional modifier, my speed is indeed faster than those ordinary novices, but why do I feel like you're a bit reluctant to leave? No, not at all, Meow. Xingming smiled shyly. Changing the wheel was just the first step. It wasn't over yet. In fact, it was already finished, but the corresponding modification core had not yet generated. Suchin pondered while stroking his chin. Perhaps the prerequisite conditions had not been met? Recalling that he had added a front lip and rear wing to Xingming and made adjustments to the chassis, he had modified 2 areas in total. Could it be that modifications needed to be made in 2 locations to satisfy the activation conditions for the modification core? Suchin returned to the warehouse and took a look at the scraps he had salvaged from the junkyard. The PVC sheets he used for Xingming's chassis cover were down to some leftover scraps, but there were still plenty of ABS plastic sheets left, which should be enough to make a front lip and rear wing. The downforce provided by the front lip and rear wing would also affect grip, achieving similar results to changing the tires. However, he initially didn't want to go this route. After all, this crude method of enhancing cornering performance could lead to excessive grip, thereby affecting the car's speed. But now, there were no other choices. By the time the front lip and rear wing were completed, it was already 9 o'clock in the evening. Suchin installed the 2 parts on Xingming. Compared to the first installation, this time Xingming appeared much more composed. The 4 wheels, front lip, and rear wing transformed into flowing starlight, ultimately coalescing beside the jack into a hexagonal block radiating a white-green glow, which was the newly crafted modification core. Suchin picked up the modification core, and as the electronic patterns flowed, the module's information appeared before him. Unnamed Cornering Performance Specialization Modification Core. Positive effects. Cornering 7, Stability 3. Negative effects. Speed 4, Burst 2, Tire Wear Rate 40. Special effects. Bust 1 cup. Black Stockings High Heel Effect. Special Area Sensitivity 1. Grade. White-green. This modification core has been created for you. Please name the modification core, Xingming. now back in her mechanical girl form, was curiously standing on her tiptoes, looking this way. Su Chen's gaze wandered between Xingming's slender upper body and her bare little feet. Lost in thought, this modified core, could it also transform? Or do all modified cores have a similar transformative effect? Let's call it the Black Silk Thunder now. 2 Modification Core. He squinted his eyes and clapped his hands in excitement. What a perfect, high-end, and fitting name. He felt like the Greek god of naming. However, what does a sensitivity level of 1 for special areas mean? Su Chen's expression turned serious, his gaze focused on Xingming. As the saying goes, practice is the only criterion for testing truth. As a modifier and driver, he should have a sufficient understanding of his mech girl. So, a little research shouldn't be a problem, right? Chapter 11. A delight to the eyes, master. This module feels strange on my body, Xingming said under the hall's lighting. Her black silk legs slightly crossed, wearing high heels. She looked quite stunning. Moreover, her previously slender upper body finally had a pleasing curve. Strange? In what way? Su Chen looked Xingming up and down, realizing what it meant to be a delight to the eyes. Those fluffy ears and that furry tail were simply irresistible. It just feels a bit tingly on the soles of my feet. Xingming carefully moved a step, the heels of her shoes clicking against the wooden floor, and she shivered with a flushed face. Seeing Xingming's embarrassed expression, Su Chen quickly pieced it together. Oh, so the sensitivity level of 1 for special areas refers to the soles of her feet. Unexpected yet logical. He thought it might be referring to some more private areas, like her cat ears or tail, but it wasn't a big deal. This didn't affect his appreciation of beauty. Aside from that, do you have any other feelings? Yes, meow. Xingming closed her eyes, seriously feeling it out, then clenched her fists and threw a meow punch at the air. It just feels stronger than before, and my chest is heavy, meow. Su Chen thought, of course. It's an upgrade from A to B. That's a qualitative leap. It seems that after installing the modification core, the mech girl herself has some awareness of the enhancement, though it's not very clear. Your feet are a defect of the modification core. Su Chen pointed to a chair seriously. Go sit there, take off your shoes, and I'll help you check. Oh, Xingming, trusting him, obediently sat down and took off her shoes, revealing her little feet wrapped in black silk. Su Chen squatted down to examine them closely. He felt that the beings known as mech girls were truly peculiar. Logically speaking, these high heels should be wheels, but they could be removed in the form of high heels. It's simply unscientific. However, this wasn't the time to ponder the science. For Xingming's health, he needed to examine her feet carefully. His fingers slowly descended. But before he could fully appreciate the soft touch, Xingming suddenly let out a scream, her calves tensed, and her feet shot up to kick with all her might. In front of him, a shadow carrying a fragrant breeze flashed by. Bang! Su Chen's face instantly contorted. Uffed. A mouthful of blood spurted a foot high. Su Chen's body spun in the air for 3.5 rotations before rolling to a stop in the corner of the hall, crashing into a shelf. Ah, master? Xingming was startled by her own kick and hurried over to check on Su Chen. It was purely a reflexive action. After installing the modification core, her feet had become particularly sensitive, so the moment Su Chen touched her, she felt a jolt all over, like an electric shock, resulting in a knee-jerk reaction. The strength of a robotic girl is several times that of an ordinary human. Naturally, that near full-force kick sent Su Chen flying. Master, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Xingming knelt beside Su Chen, helping him up, her small hands tightly gripping his hand, which was gradually growing cold, tears streaming down her face. Master, you mustn't die. What will I do if you die? Whoa. Don't cry, Su Chen said weakly, lying on Xingming's soft lap. Trembling, he took out his phone and slowly raised it. Quick, help me call an ambulance. The next morning, Su Chen stood at the hospital entrance, feeling a bit dazed as he faced the bustling crowd and cars on the street. He swore he would never be reckless again. So fast. He touched his already healed jaw in disbelief. Master? What is so fast? Xingming, holding fruits and milk, tilted her head curiously. Throughout the journey from waking up to leaving the hospital, Su Chen's expression and condition seemed strange. The fracture healed that quickly? Su Chen was astonished. Is the medical technology in this world that terrifying? He only remembered being unconscious and then waking up completely fine. Yes. Xingming nodded like a chick pecking at grains. It's just a minor injury, but it did hurt a lot. Master, I'm really sorry. I will definitely hold back and not kick you again. Su Chen was speechless. Xingming truly didn't mean it. Robotic girls have a mental imprint that prevents them from harming their drivers. So he couldn't blame Xingming. He could only blame himself for being careless and for underestimating her incredible strength due to her cute appearance. If the force of the kick had been reduced by 100 times, he would have said he could take a few more. It's fine. Su Chen quietly took a half step away from Xingming and cleared his throat. By the way, where did you get the money for the medical bills? Robotic girl owners can apply for free treatment for external injuries once a year. Xingming waved the pocket in her hand. After becoming a driver, I can apply 3 times a year. Plus, they give out fruits and milk. The treatment for drivers is that good? Suchin couldn't help but exclaim. No wonder in a world where racing is paramount, drivers are almost treated like royalty. Master, what are we going to do next? Should we continue the modifications? Suchin fell silent for a moment upon hearing this. He had no materials or money left to modify Xing Meng anymore. What he needed to do now was to turn Xing Meng's modifications into profit. However, before that, he needed a ticket to enter the new era. Hey, he waved his hand. Come with me to get a driver's license. In this world, there are two types of driver's licenses. One type of license is similar to the previous one, used for operating maglev vehicles and regular cars, with the fastest certification time reduced to just 1 day. The second type is a specialized license for mech pilots. You need to first obtain the first type of license and then complete a basic track assessment while driving a mech. The certification time is also shortened to 1 day. The assessment track is a total of 10 kilometers, and the entire course is very narrow, allowing only one vehicle to pass at a time. The requirement is to reach the finish line within the specified time without colliding with the surrounding barriers. Any collision, even a slight brush, is considered a failure. The driving school in Binzhou resembles a waiting hall. Su Chun, accompanied by Xingming, took a number and found a chair to sit in the spacious and bright hall, surrounded by rows of seats similar to those in a waiting area. It was graduation season as well as the start of a new semester. So there were quite a few people here, most of them young faces in uniforms, excited about their upcoming exams. Generally, those taking the mech pilot license are freshmen from the League Academy, whereas he felt like an old man among them. Su Chun noticed a huge electronic screen on the wall to the right of the waiting area. It displayed an electronic map of Binzhou, with blinking landmarks indicating competitions currently happening or soon to be held in the city. He approached the electronic map for a clearer view. Autumn Ming Mountain Climb Exchange Race. Difficulty, location, Autumn Ming Mountain, Binzhou time, 8 p.m., July 9th. Rewards, regular prizes for the top 3, personal guidance from the record holder. The Great Deity Tohai. Dragon Pool Exchange Race. Difficulty, location, Dragon Pool, Terminal 1 Sky Rail time, 8 a.m., July 8th. Rewards, regular prizes for the top 3. These were all minor competitions, typical for most League Academy students and even professional drivers. They frequently participated in such small races to earn money as long as the mech's condition allowed. Once enough money was earned, they would upgrade their mechs and then participate in more challenging races for higher rewards, continuing this cycle of improvement. As he scanned through the track information, a certain landmark in the center of Binzhou suddenly lit up, brighter and more luxurious than the others. Penang City Center Underground Tunnel Open Race, live broadcast. Difficulty, location, west entrance of the city center tunnel. Time, 9 p.m., July 7th. Rewards, regular open race prizes. 1 Junior Star Essence of your choice. July 7th, which is tonight. Su Chen's heart raced, and he clenched his fists. To participate in the city championship, one must have a C-level license. Xingming had already met the C-level promotion criteria. Now, they just needed 1 Junior Star Essence. Wasn't this the opportunity they were looking for? There wouldn't be a second chance. The driver assessment must be passed on the first attempt. Chapter 12. Su Chun's launch start. Hey kid, have you actually learned how to operate a mech? There's no record of you in the system. You've never been to a driving school. The middle-aged instructor glanced at Su Chun and then at Xingming, secretly thinking that this was another second-generation rich kid playing around. A beastier girl's specialized mech isn't cheap. Even if its performance is average, its appearance alone could cost 20 times more. He might not have been to a driving school, but isn't self-learning possible? Su Chun smiled and said, as long as I can pass the exam. That's all that matters. The exams in this world are quite strict, but there are no requirements for teaching, as long as you can pass. It doesn't matter where you learned. However, those who pass without proper study are indeed rare. Alright. The instructor didn't say much more and handed a form to Su Chun for him to sign. The exam fee is 100 yuan, and there's no refund if you fail. The basic driving license can only be tested once every 2 weeks, and the professional mech driving license can only be tested once every 3 months. Su Chun signed and paid the fee, and the instructor gestured for him to follow. I'm your examiner today. I'll be in the passenger seat. Follow me. Xingming also followed the two to the training ground. Curious about her driver taking the driving test, she had never seen her master drive before and wondered how his driving skills were. Wang Tingting's driving skills were quite average, making it uncomfortable to be on the track with her. However, Su Chun was different. He treated her well. So even if his skills were only half of Wang Tingting's, she would fully accept it. Kid, choose one, maglev, gas, or electric vehicle. The instructor led Su Chun to 3 training cars, unscrewing a bottle of water to take a sip. The gas vehicle is the hardest to handle and is already half obsolete. I don't recommend it. Su Chun examined the 3 cars carefully. The 2 at the back looked no different from cars in his previous life, while the maglev vehicle in front used some unknown technology, with wheels resembling tracks, the entire body hovering half a palm's height above the ground, looking quite high-tech. But no matter how advanced the technology, how could maglev and batteries compare to the mechanical charm of an internal combustion engine? Moreover, the internal structure of Xingming's vehicle clearly resembled that of a gas vehicle. I choose the gas vehicle. The instructor S. I twitched slightly, thinking. Another one who doesn't believe in danger. Driving a gas vehicle looks cool, but it's difficult. Are you sure? Sure. I choose the gas vehicle. Fine. The instructor opened the car door and sat in the passenger seat with a blank expression, preparing to score Su Chen a 0. Su Chen took the driver's seat. Gripping the steering wheel, feeling a familiar sensation arise. Although he wasn't a racer in his previous life, as a modifier, he had to understand racing cars and techniques. His skills, while not extraordinary, could definitely be considered those of a seasoned driver among ordinary people, and not just based on experience, but on technique. Instructor, I heard that drivers also have levels, from unranked, D to S, right? So what? The instructor rolled his eyes, exasperated. There are even SS and SSS levels above that. But what does it have to do with you? If you can just barely pass the unranked today, you should be grateful. Su Chen didn't argue. Quickly checking the car's condition and looking straight ahead. Instructor, are you ready? Ready, stop dawdling. Let us get this over with. I still have to eat lunch. The next second, vroom. The roar of the engine nearly startled the instructor out of his seat. The clutch entered a half-engaged state, and the young man beside him had a serious expression, gripping the steering wheel like a knight holding the reins of a warhorse. No, it couldn't be called a warhorse. The usually docile training car was now like a wild beast ready to charge. The instructor instinctively clung to the seat, gripping the seatbelt tightly. Meanwhile, Su Chen had already pressed the clutch to the floor with his left foot and slammed the accelerator with his right, pushing the engine to 4,000 RPM. The turbo began to emit a piercing howl. What are you doing, buddy? The instructor's shout was drowned out by the roar of the engine. Su Chen remained silent, fixated on the trembling needle of the tachometer. Through the dashboard, he seemed to see the moment when fuel and air would perfectly merge. His fingers tapped a rhythm, his lips barely touching, silently counting down. 3, 2, 1. The moment the word 1 burst from his lips, he lifted the clutch to the engagement point while simultaneously stomping on the accelerator. The front wheels of the training car suddenly gripped the ground, screeching. Rubber squealed against the pavement. The powerful thrust sent the panicked instructor back into his seat. In 0.8 seconds, the engine RPM skyrocketed from 4,000 to the red line. Boom. The training car shot forward like a cannonball. Su Chen smoothly shifted into second gear, the turbocharger roaring as the force surged like a tidal wave. The starting line was instantly left behind, and all that remained in his sharp eyes was the straight racetrack ahead. Within him, dopamine and adrenaline intertwined to create an intense symphony celebrating the freedom and wildness unique to racing. Ha! Su Chen laughed joyfully, while the instructor was terrified, feeling the urge to urinate. On the sidelines, watching the training car disappear into the distance, Xingming's eyes sparkled with amazement. She never expected that the master would actually know how to launch like that. How incredible! She thought about how exhilarating it would be to be driven by the master in such a launch. Suddenly, she felt a bit envious of the training car. The master's first launch was given to the training car? How unfair. 10 minutes later, after completing all the exercises, Su Chen executed a drift to park the car. He rolled down the window to peek at the parking lines, shaking his head and sighing. After all, I'm not a professional driver. This drift parking is still too low level. A professional driver could park parallel to the lines. Mine is way off. But even if it was crooked, getting it in was still a pass. He turned to look at the pale-faced instructor. So, how was it, coach? I should have passed, right? The instructor nodded shakily, then suddenly opened the car door and began to vomit. After over a decade of teaching, he had never encountered such a terrifying beginner. No, this couldn't possibly be a beginner. Generally, drivers who just graduated from racing academies didn't have such skills. Techniques like launching were typically not something drivers would encounter before joining a club. Did they really think anyone could self-learn? The same technique applied to mechanical cars and advanced AI vehicles was entirely different. Mechanical cars were soulless, mere objects to be toyed with. But advanced AI vehicles could feel pain. Who would dare to use an ejection start on their machine without professional training? Not to mention the risk of being summoned for a chat by the oversight committee, who would want to take the chance of their machine being rendered unusable. In the eyes of the coach, Su Chen has already been categorized as a second-generation heir of some club bigwigs. Only people of such status might have enough resources to train their skills while never having learned basic driving at a driving school. Su Chen handed the coach a bottle of mineral water, patting him on the back, and asked, "Coach, can you hold on? There are still a few more assessments and the professional driving test for machines to go. You can stop, this is enough." The coach waved his hand vigorously, his eyes red, and said, "Don't torment me, I'm just a small coach. I'll give you a score now, and you can take your license and disappear from my sight." Coach, isn't that a bit harsh? Su Chun said with a shy smile. There's nothing wrong with that. After finishing the scoring on the device, the coach finally caught his breath and looked at Su Chun with a complicated expression. The highest rating a regular driving school can give is C. I know your level. You could easily get a B, or even an A. You could completely go through the Club S channels. There's no need to come here to show off. Su Chun chuckled awkwardly and scratched his head. What could he do? He didn't have a club, but AC was good enough. Even Xingming's upgrade was also AC, and he and Xingming would grow together as twin stars. The documents were processed quickly. The coach handed the C-level driving license to Su Chun, and with a dark expression, slammed the office door shut. Not wanting to linger on Su Chun for even a second, Su Chun didn't mind. The sunlight outside was bright. He exchanged a glance with Xingming beside him, a smile creeping onto his lips. The underground tunnel open competition in benching. Here we come. Chapter 13. Northern Wolf Old Zhang. There's a competition tonight. I need to trouble you again. Lin Haijun pushed open the office door and was taken aback. Coach Zhang, usually rosy-faced, looked haggard today, giving off a pale and broken vibe. What happened to you? Are you feeling unwell? The coach looked up at the newcomer with blonde hair and sighed. Don't mention it. I encountered a second-generation heir from a club today. He completed the training track in less than 8 minutes, and even the ejection start technique was very proficient. In the end, he walked away with a C-level driving license. What do you think he wants? A club came looking for you to get a license? Lin Haijun was stunned. What's wrong with him? I also think he seems to have some serious issue. The coach took a big gulp of water from his cup. He had already consumed 3 bottles of mineral water and still felt a sour taste of vomit in his mouth. What's his name? Let me see if I recognize him. Lin Haijun asked. Seems to be called Su Chun. Su Chun. Never heard of him. Lin Haijun shook his head, probably a newcomer from some small club. Young people like this are always the same. They haven't even participated in a match but think they're impressive just because they have a bit of talent. And then they go around showing off. Indeed. The coach nodded sincerely and scoffed. Just like before, you're going to participate in tonight's underground tunnel race, right? Here are the keys. Remember to put the ice cream cones back in place after your training. He handed a set of keys to Lin Haijun. The guy with the yellow hair was the son of a friend of his, and this wasn't his first time here. He would occasionally bring his machine girl to the driving school's training track to hone his skills, and usually, he would bring her along to warm up before the competition. He had decent talent, but unfortunately, he wasted too much time on women. Otherwise, he would have already met the threshold to join the club. Don't worry, when have I not returned them to you? Lin Haijun took the keys and stepped outside. But his mind was still on what had just happened. Generally, once a driver got their license, they would take their machine girl to the nearest competition to test the waters. Tonight's race in Binhai City was the only one happening. Could it be that this guy was also going to participate in the underground tunnel race tonight? He was a C-level direct tester, a bit of a skilled driver. Initially, he thought tonight would be a personal showcase, but suddenly he felt a bit excited. Lin Haijun smirked slightly. Su Chun, quite interesting. That night, Virum, the roar of a powerful engine echoed through the streets as a silver sports car sped by. The wheels splashed through puddles, soaking a drunken man swaying by the roadside. Hey, is this how you drive? The drunk shouted, but froze when he recognized the wolf logo on the back of the machine girl's car. This logo didn't seem to belong to a team from Binhai City. Suddenly, he remembered something as he looked in his pocket and pulled out a ticket. Right. The Penang Underground Tunnel Race. Damn, I almost forgot about it after drinking too much. He checked the time and immediately hopped on a shared maglev bike to rush to the race venue. Although the Binhai Underground Tunnel Race wasn't an official competition, it attracted many promising drivers due to its generous rewards, and these drivers and their machine girls were likely to appear in the city championship. Watching the race early and gathering intel on these drivers and machine girls would be beneficial for betting on the top 3 in the city championship. That would not only be a significant sum of money, but also a great topic of conversation among friends. Timers, route maps, sound systems, and electronic screens filled the venue. The air was thick with the mixed scents of gasoline, rubber, and fried foods. At the starting point of the Penang Underground Tunnel Race, neon lights cast mottled shadows on the damp ground. During the day, this was an abandoned tunnel entrance, but at night, it became a place where dreamers drove their hovering cars to celebrate their aspirations. This group of boys and girls with colorful hair and punk styles were not chasing after pop stars or movie stars, but rather drivers. Good evening, audience friends. I'm your old friend, Brother G. A temporary stage was set up near the tunnel entrance. The host, Brother G, wearing a sequin suit and exaggerated heart-shaped sunglasses, was holding a microphone and exuberantly showcasing his unique voice. Welcome to the Penang City Underground Tunnel Race. There are 10 minutes left until the race starts. Most of the drivers have arrived and started their preparations. Considering there are new spectators, I'll give a brief introduction to the race. The underground tunnel in the city spans 78 kilometers, and our drivers along with their machines will need to complete 20 laps. The race will adopt a lottery system for starting positions, and malicious collisions and illegal modifications are strictly prohibited. After finishing, I gave a gesture to the backstage. All right, I've finished my bit. Now, let us turn the camera to the contestants, and everyone can start cheering for their favorite drivers. Ha ha ha, still as passionate as ever. Lin Haijun leaned against the body of his machine, still watching the host's stand-up performance on the big screen. Master, it's time to get ready. The machine urged in his ear. Ah, it's just a small race. No need to take it so seriously. Lin Haijun waved his hand casually. For him, the underground tunnel race is indeed a minor event. He has run it more than 10 times and is very familiar with the track conditions. Not to mention securing first place, he is almost guaranteed a spot in the top 3. As long as he finishes in the top 3, he can earn a basic star token, completing Wang Tingting's task. Even small races deserve serious attention, though. The machine pouted in the cockpit, without the driver coming in. She had to check the vehicle's condition herself and report back later. Buzzing. Suddenly, a roar of engines echoed from a distance, like the low growl of a lion patrolling its territory. Lin Haijun and the other drivers turned to look back. A blinding beam of headlights sliced through the night, and a silver machine came into view. With a smooth drift, it glided past the starting line parallel to Lin Haijun's machine. The screech of tires against the ground piercing the air. Through the windshield, the driver could be seen skillfully controlling the steering wheel with one hand, his gaze sharp as an eagle. Seeing the wolf head emblem on the silver machine, Lin Haijun's pupils constricted. Northern Wolf. He recognized this racing team's logo. What is this team from K-City doing here in B-City? The door opened, and a man dressed in a black leather jacket stepped out, removing his helmet to reveal a chiseled face. He glanced up and down at Lin Haijun before shifting his gaze elsewhere, showing no arrogance, but clearly not treating Lin Haijun and his machine with much regard. How infuriating. What kind of look is that? Lin Haijun clenched his fists, his molars grinding together, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. The professional driver from Northern Wolf coming to compete in this small race felt suffocating, like being constricted by a python. Not to mention the level of skill required to precisely maneuver into the starting line. Just that smooth drift alone would take him 2 years to master. However, just as the drivers were immersed in the pressure brought by the Northern Wolf, another engine sound echoed from the end of the road. Unlike the previous machine, this one was not explosive but calm and restrained, hiding a lethal intent. Like a cheetah waiting to pounce. There were no blinding headlights, no frantic braking sounds. A blue and white machine that looked somewhat ordinary quietly appeared at the edge of their vision. Lin Haijun stared at the vehicle, feeling as if he had seen it somewhere before. In the moment he was lost in thought, the machine girl executed a near-perfect drift, almost brushing against the railing as she crossed the starting line. When the machine girl came to a stop, the surroundings fell silent. The man in a black jacket from the Northern Wolves showed a look of surprise. While Lin Haijun finally snapped back to reality, wasn't he this the star dream that Wang Tingting used to drive? Despite obvious signs of modification, the main structure of the car hadn't changed much. The door opened, and a tall man stepped out, his expression calm, even carrying a faint sense of detachment. Su Chun didn't even look at the crowd. He simply bent down and poked at the tires of the Star Dream. How was the Star Dream? Report on the tire wear condition. Chapter 14. The race begins. The race was about to start. All contestants, please prepare for the launch. The voice of the announcer rang out. Su Chun put on his helmet and gripped the steering wheel. Master, water temperature is normal, oil pressure is normal. Neural network connection to the cockpit is complete. A series of unknown material connection lines spread from the spine of the Star Dream. These lines connected to the steering wheel, brakes, clutch, and other control platforms in the cockpit. As the announcement finished, the lines lit up with a faint glow. Tire wear at 3, that's quite absurd. Su Chin sighed, leaning back in his seat, his body relaxing. A reading of 3 meant that the tires would wear down to 30 after the approximately 15-kilometer stretch from the modification shop to the racetrack. This was the core negative effect of the tire wear modification set to 40. Instant results. Such tires would definitely be disqualified in a race. But now, they had to press on. Master, if we lose this race, will you blame me? Came the timid voice of the Star Dream from ahead. Through the rearview mirror, Su Chin could see the girl's anxious and scared expression. They had just formed a contract and hadn't gone through any acclimatization. Now they were about to face a somewhat well-known race, with the 2 opponents beside them putting immense pressure on the Star Dream. To the left was Lin Haijun and Po Feng, with Lin Haijun being Wang Tingting's current boyfriend. To the right were the man in the jacket and an unknown machine girl, reportedly from the Northern Wolves team in the neighboring city. Being a professional driver from a team certainly meant he was formidable. Hey, Star Dream, what do you like to eat? Su Chin asked, diverting the topic. Me. Star Dream perked up her ears, tilting her head in thought for 2 seconds. Don't laugh at me, but I like to eat big watermelons with stinky tofu, meow. All right, Su Chin replied with a smile, though he was surprised by Star Dream's preferences. If we lose this race and don't get any materials, we'll go have a big watermelon with stinky tofu to cheer ourselves up. Meow? Really? This time, Star Dream's tail perked up. Of course. But won't there be a punishment for losing the race? Star Dream couldn't believe it and confirmed repeatedly, Master, I can accept any punishment. But please don't terminate our contract. Don't worry, that won't happen. Important things should be said 3 times, meow. It won't happen, it won't happen, it won't happen. Hearing Su Chin's repeated assurances, Star Dream felt a bit more at ease. Master, I will do my best too. She waved her fist and took a deep breath. She had to obtain the star element materials in this competition. Only by getting the star element materials could she advance to the sea-level city championship. I will prove it to you. Star Dream glanced at the nearby breakthrough and murmured, I am not the worthless waste you think I am. I can also race on the track and unleash my power. Next door, in Breakthrough's cockpit, Lin Haijun had been acting strangely since the beginning. The world is a gigantic coincidence. He truly didn't expect to encounter Star Dream and the tuner here. Well, then let's shatter your hopes in advance. Lin Haijun glanced at Star Dream and could vaguely see the figure of the man sitting upright in the cockpit. A 2.5-star difficulty race is not something a novice can handle. You will soon realize how naive you are. He smirked slightly and looked at the left side where a member of the Northern Wolf team was located, his smile suddenly vanishing. Aside from that uncertain sea-level driver, this racer from the Northern Wolf would be his formidable opponent tonight. At exactly 8 o'clock, with the sound of the signal gun, the race officially began. All drivers set off from the starting line in groups of 3 according to the draw order. At 8:05, the broadcast sounded again. Please prepare for the start. Contestant 17, Yu Ming, and contestant 24, Lin Haijun, breakthrough. Yu Ming and Lin Haijun had a slight impression of each other. There indeed was such a person in the Northern Wolf team, but it seemed he was from the T2 team, not a main driver. Even so, appearing in such a small competition made him a solid underdog. Wasn't he just a show-off? Please prepare for the start. Contestant 41, Su Chun, Star Dream. What? Lin Haijun was stunned, nearly jumping out of his seat. Su Chun. He is Su Chun? Looking at the figure in the cockpit of Star Dream next door, Lin Haijun was completely dumbfounded. The person who picked up the sea-level driver's license from Coach Zhang in the morning, suspected to be a second-generation rich kid of the club, was actually the current driver of Star Dream. Su Chun? Wasn't he a tuner? How could he still have time to practice racing skills while being a tuner? Moreover, his driving skills were even quite good. Lin Haijun felt a mix of emotions. Although the world is a huge coincidence, he didn't believe there was another Su Chun. The sea-level driver's license must have just been obtained by this person. However, he quickly adjusted his emotions and comforted himself. So what? The race depends not only on skills, but also on the performance of the mecha. With less than a day, I don't believe he can make Star Dream that formidable. Thinking of how Wang Tingting described how poor Star Dream's performance was, he regained his confidence. 3 seconds to start. Virum. The roar of engines erupted simultaneously from 3 machine girls, the vibrations spreading throughout the vehicle. Su Chun gazed straight ahead, his pupils gradually narrowing, and the boiling blood in his veins calmed at this moment. 3. He pressed the clutch lightly with his left foot, controlled the throttle with his right foot, and gripped the steering wheel at the 9 and 3 o'clock positions. 2. The engine roar of Xingming suddenly escalated, and Su Chin's muscles tensed. 1. The instant the starting signal fired, Su Chun floored the throttle while releasing the clutch. The hot tires spun wildly, generating scorching white smoke against the ground. Boom. In the next second, Xingming shot out like a bullet. The G-force pressed Su Chun heavily into the seat, making it nearly impossible to breathe. In 0.5 seconds, the neon lights at the starting point blurred into flowing colored lines. The violent acceleration that broke 103 seconds nearly made him dizzy, yet the corners of his mouth involuntarily rose. It's back. Everything is back. The sense of freedom and madness that he, as a modifier, deeply craved. Just like those top racers on the tracks of the earth. Master, I've never launched with such speed before. A half-surprised shout came from Xingming, just as she thought. This kind of launch is indeed exhilarating. The corner of Su Chin's mouth curled into a disdainful arc under the helmet. What does Wang Tingting know? Does she understand what a launch is? Not only does Wang Tingting not understand, but Lin Haijun also knows little. Su Chin glanced at the rearview mirror, where the figure of Pofeng appeared. Just with the launch, Lin Haijun had already been left behind by more than 10 meters. Inside Pofeng's cockpit, Lin Haijun gripped the steering wheel tightly, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. Such proficiency in launching? Is he really just a C-class driver? He clenched his jaw, fixating on the tail lights of Xingming. A true expert reveals their skill immediately. This launch was so fast that it left him somewhat hopeless, even making him wonder if Su Chun had switched to another machine girl. How could a D-class vehicle launch with such speed? What made Lin Haijun even more uneasy was that in the rearview mirror, the driver from the Northern Wolf team hadn't moved at all, still keeping the machine girl in a ready state. Was there a malfunction, or was there another reason? No, it couldn't be a malfunction. Lin Haijun's heart sank. He clearly remembered that the machine girl was in a startup state at the beginning. Thus, there was only one answer. The opponent was doing it on purpose, deliberately waiting in place. The driver from Northern Wolf believed that even standing still could outpace them all. What kind of confidence is this? Is he really a professional driver from the club? It seems that securing the first place tonight is a bit uncertain. While he was pondering, Lin Haijun realized that Pafeng had unknowingly caught up to Xingming ahead. The distance between the two machine girls was gradually closing. The advantage that Su Chun and Xingming gained from the launch was being gradually erased under Pafeng's absolute speed advantage. Half a minute later, Xingming was driving side by side with Pafeng. Lin Haijun glanced at the Star Dream, which was gradually being overtaken by the breakthrough. A slight smirk on his lips. The performance gap between machine girls can't be easily bridged by just a bit of driving skill. Breakthrough. Just ride ahead and don't give that machine girl any thoughts of overtaking. Yes, sir. Breakthrough, who was seriously observing the road conditions ahead, immediately responded. Don't worry. Breakthrough will definitely not be overtaken again. Master, 300 meters straight. Take a sharp right turn at 90 degrees. In the cockpit, Star Dream had just finished reporting the roadbook when she saw Breakthrough zoom past in a flash. She pouted in frustration, her cat ears drooping down. Master, that machine girl has overtaken us. Yes, I'm sorry. Even though Master has gained an advantage through skill, it turns out she knew her performance was lagging behind and couldn't help but feel guilty. If only her speed performance were a bit better. How could Breakthrough easily overtake her? It's okay, I saw it. Su Chin calmly looked at the tail lights of Breakthrough getting further away. The Eye of God constantly monitored Breakthrough's information. After equipping the Thunder 2 modification core, although Star Dream's cornering attribute reached 61, her speed was only 43. While Breakthrough's speed attribute was as high as 58, a full 15-point gap in speed attributes resulting in an absolute disadvantage in the straight segments. Even if his launch was more skilled than Lin Haijun's, it wouldn't help. Being overtaken on the straight was just a matter of time. But a race isn't just about the straight segments, and the challenges don't just manifest on the straight track. Running fast in a straight line is good, but being fast in corners is what truly counts. Seeing the little cat girl's mood low, Su Chun smiled gently and comforted her. Don't be anxious, Star Dream. Let the bullets fly for a while. Bullets? Star Dream tilted her head, suddenly serious, and said earnestly, Master, we don't have bullets, and besides, using firearms during a race is illegal. But if you really must use a gun, I can find a way to take the blame for you. Su Chun, all right. Almost forgot that Star Dream hadn't seen let the bullets fly. Ladies and gentlemen, so far all the racers have taken off. Just as the commentator was halfway through his sentence, he suddenly stopped and shouted loudly. No. OMG. There's still a contestant waiting at the starting point. Whoosh. All cameras turned to the starting point at that moment, projecting the silver-white machine girl marked with a wolf head logo onto the big screen. The black wolf head, if I'm not mistaken, is the emblem of the Northern Wolf racing team from the neighboring K-City. The commentator tightened his grip on the microphone. A serious expression as he wiped away non-existent cold sweat from his forehead. Friends, this is bad. Something is going to happen. I already have a premonition that tonight's race will be bloody. Is it that serious, commentator? The cameraman next to him shivered a bit. What do you know? The commentator moved the microphone away and lowered his voice. This is an exaggeration, an exaggerated metaphor. This is passion. How can we stir the audience's emotions without exaggeration? And when he heard the words Northern Wolf, the audience in front of the electronic screen was already buzzing with excitement. Wait, how did the Northern Wolves team make it to Bin City? Is the Northern Wolves really that impressive? Not just impressive. They are the top team from the neighboring K-City. Their T2 team's captain, Wolf King Li Yini, even won first place in last year's K-City Urban Championship. Wow, that's amazing. Tonight is going to be a great show. At the starting point, the silver-white machine girl's engine had already started but was still in warm-up mode. It sat quietly in the dim light of the tunnel, resembling a lurking beast. Master, it's been 30 seconds. Are we not departing yet? In the cockpit, facing the machine girl's urging, Yuming merely glanced at his watch nonchalantly. Chasing Shadow, don't rush. The boss sent us to Bin City for training. If it's too easy, it won't be interesting. He twisted open a bottle of water and took a sip. Let us wait 10 more seconds before we go. Originally, he wanted to wait a minute, but the drivers he saw tonight piqued his interest. This driver wasn't Lin Haijun, and he didn't even know who Lin Haijun was. What caught his attention was the machine girl with a dazzling white body and a black rear wing. If he remembered correctly, this machine girl was called Star Dream, and the driver was Su Chun, a combination he had no recollection of. However, the launch technique displayed by this relatively unknown driver at the starting point truly surprised him. A technique like that shouldn't belong to an obscure street racer in Bin City. Of course, this launch technique could also be a stroke of luck. like hitting the perfect grip and RPM by chance with a random press of the throttle. Regardless, he would find out soon enough when he caught up. Master, 10 seconds have passed. Chasing Shadow's voice echoed back, filled with frustration. As a machine girl, she longed to shine on the racetrack. What was the difference between this warm-up at the starting point and just idling outside? All right, I got it. Yu Ming sighed, his fingers gripping the steering wheel tightly. In that moment, the casual and indifferent expression on his face vanished, replaced by seriousness and focus. Click. At the moment the second hand on the watch ticked, Yu Ming's left foot instantly released the clutch, while his right foot pushed the throttle to 3/4. Too light, too aggressive, it slipped. The speed at which he released the clutch and the force with which he pressed the throttle reached a delicate balance. Boom. The wind pressure blew up the dust and leaves around the wheels, and the roar of the engine erupted into thrust. This sudden surge of sound startled both Brother G in front of the camera and the audience. By the time they reacted, all they could see was the tail lights of Chasing Shadow and a trail of white smoke. Wow, what a terrifying burst of acceleration. Brother G, as a regular host for the underground tunnel races in Bin City, had seen a lot. He vowed that the starting speed of this machine girl would definitely rank in the top 5 of his career. With competitors of this caliber coming to participate in our novice race, how are the other racers supposed to compete? Brother G was also speechless. The original intention of holding the underground tunnel race in Bincheng was to provide upgrade materials for talented novice drivers in need. However, this particular competitor is just here to cause chaos, wasting resources for no reason. Didn't he give up 40 seconds? Chicken Brother said. So what? He glanced at the cameraman and scoffed. If I were him, I would have let it drag on for 5 minutes. But the competition doesn't prohibit such drivers from participating. It's just that the drivers participating tonight are quite unfortunate. Let us focus the camera on that downhill hairpin turn, Chicken Brother instructed the cameraman. That's the tricky corner of our Bincheng tunnel race. Let us check the timing. Some drivers are almost there. The Bincheng underground tunnel isn't wide. The track can accommodate a maximum of 3 vehicles side by side. As the race progressed, some drivers have already reached the challenging section of the first lap, which is the most difficult part of the Bincheng underground tunnel. After navigating several gentle curves, there's a straight acceleration stretch of 500 meters. It's worth mentioning that this stretch is also a downhill slope, followed closely by a sharp turn with a tricky angle. Without a doubt, this section of the track tests the driver's control over speed and grip. Without strong cornering ability and high-performance vehicles, drivers can only slow down here. Master, we're approaching the consecutive curves. Breaking Point's reminder pulled Lin Haijun's attention back from the rearview mirror. He had been glancing at the mirror along the way. He and Breaking Point had long left Xingming far behind. There was no sign of Xingming in the mirror, and he wasn't concerned about Su Chun and Xingming, as they were already defeated. What he was focused on was the driver from the Northern Wolf team. Lin Haijun wondered when that driver would catch up. After smoothly navigating through 4 gentle curves, he vaguely heard the roar of an engine approaching rapidly. The sound was like a buzzing bee, exceptionally clear in the quiet tunnel. Is he catching up? So fast. No wonder he's from the Northern Wolf. Lin Haijun instinctively glanced at the rearview mirror again, but this glance left him dazed. The darkness at the end of the tunnel was suddenly torn open. A white figure burst out of the curve like a gust of wind. The wake it created shaking the side barriers, and 2 bright headlights dazzled his eyes painfully. It was a vehicle. The lighting in the tunnel was dim, so he couldn't make out the color of the vehicle, but he was sure it wasn't the one from the Northern Wolf team. The Northern Wolf's vehicle had round headlights, while this one had elongated diamond-shaped lights, with vertically aligned matrix lights beside it, resembling a pair of outspread wings. However, Lin Haijun could hardly believe his eyes and swallowed hard, his hands gripping the steering while starting to sweat. Because, aside from the Northern Wolf, there was only one vehicle behind him and Breaking Point. That was someone he could hardly believe existed. Xingming. Chapter 16, Queen Buzz. Catching up to Breaking Point was none other than Su Chun and Xingming. As they entered the continuous curves, the cornering capability of the Star Dream 61 finally revealed its prowess. While Su Chun was unsure about the performance of other vehicles, it was clear that in terms of cornering, Star Dream could easily outperform Breakthrough. Master, I feel like I'm going faster than before. We're catching up to them, meow. Star Dream's voice was filled with excitement. Although Lin Haijun was not Wang Ting, he was still in the same league as her. Being able to keep up with Lin Haijun and Breakthrough was already a source of great joy for her. Do you know what it means to draft? Su Chun asked, knowing they were riding in Breakthrough's slipstream. No, meow. Star Dream replied. Never mind. Su Chun focused on the Breakthrough ahead. True to its name, Breakthrough was slicing through the air, creating a nearly resistance-free zone behind it. Now, both he and Star Dream were in this zone. As long as they could maintain their position behind Breakthrough, overtaking would just be a matter of waiting for the right moment. And that moment had arrived. Thanks to the slipstream, Star Dream wouldn't be left behind in the short term. Ahead lay a long downhill straight, and at the end of the slope, there was a sharp turn that resembled a devil's horn, coming into view for both Su Chun and Lin Haijun. The challenging corner was approaching, and everyone focused intently. The two vehicles reported the upcoming turn almost simultaneously, their voices urgent. Master, 200 meters downhill to a sharp right turn. Breakthrough called out. Master. A gentle slope leading to a sharp right turn in 200 meters, meow. Star Dream chimed in. Whoosh. The speed limit sign flashed briefly in the corner of Lin Haijun's eye. He took a deep breath. The white phantom in his rearview mirror felt like a shadow looming over him. In the past, he would start to slow down as he approached the speed limit sign. But with Star Dream closely tailing him this time, perhaps out of pride or unwillingness to show weakness to Su Chun, he decided not to slow down. The howling wind felt like it was trying to shatter the car windows. The tunnel lights stretched into blurred lines. In that moment of breaking out of his comfort zone, the familiar corner now appeared as a terrifying monster rushing toward him. Damn it, how can I lose to a rookie who just got their driver's license? Lin Haijun gripped the steering wheel tightly, gritting his teeth as veins bulged on his forehead. The downhill turn loomed closer, and his heartbeat quickened. Finally, just before his heart could leap out of his chest, he slammed on the brakes. Screech. Hot white smoke billowed between the tires. Su Chun looked at the illuminated brake lights of Breakthrough with a neutral expression. This was Lin Haijun's limit, and Breakthrough's limit. But it was neither Star Dream's nor his own limit. The 61-point cornering performance gave Star Dream and him more chances to react and maneuver. As Breakthrough and Lin Haijun started to brake, Su Chun instinctively identified the turn-in point and pressed the brake pedal. Screech. The carbon ceramic brake pads instantly glowed red like fire. Thick white smoke enveloped the corner. Su Chun's body instinctively leaned forward under the G-force, only to be yanked back by the seatbelt. In the middle of the turn, Breakthrough and Lin Haijun were already hugging the outer lane. Xingming approached the inner lane. Su Chun downshifted with his right hand and quickly turned the steering wheel with his left. The inertia drifted under the effect of centripetal force, causing Xingming's rear to swing outward, almost brushing against the door of Buofeng but never colliding. At this moment, Xingming had already surpassed more than half of Buofeng's body. I've got it, Su Chun smirked. The toughest moment had passed. Next was the exit of the turn. He lightly tapped the brake with his left foot to adjust Xingming's posture. His right foot hovered over the accelerator, ready to give it gas at any moment. However, Buofeng, lagging by more than half a car length, began to push slightly at this moment, the tires screeching against the ground. And the car body seemed to show signs of losing control. Did Lin Haijun make a mistake? Su Chun glanced at the rearview mirror. It was clear that Lin Haijun was not adapting to such a fast cornering speed, and his mastery of drifting was not as good as his. When Lin Haijun realized he was being overtaken and attempted to adjust the steering wheel to block him and Xingming, the only path awaiting him and Buofeng was one of losing control. Lin Haijun clearly understood this as well. Thus, his attempt to block came to an abrupt halt, and he had no choice but to futilely yield the lane. The racing cars through the turn were like raging beasts. The drivers had to merge with these beasts. Any attempt to correct the beast and tighten the reins could result in being thrown off. The path ahead was now clear. Su Chun calmly pressed the accelerator all the way down. The engine's RPM gauge needle jumped wildly. The turbocharger screamed as it released all the power accumulated through the entire turn. Xingming, Su Chun shouted. The instant pushback pressed him firmly against the driver's seat. The engine's roar blended with the wild howling. Full throttle out of the turn. Give it all you've got to blow them away. As Xingming shot out of the turn, it seemed to pause for a moment before suddenly launching forward. The exit launch dealt a heavy blow to Lin Haijun. The two machines burst out of the turn one after the other. The guardrails at the edge of the turn shook violently, even though they had already surged far ahead. Hey, did you see those two machines just now? What happened to that white machine? Such a fast cornering speed. A crowd of spectators by the safety barrier was still in shock. Unfortunately, the cameras were focused on the front runners, failing to capture the intense competition on the big screen. The white machine was unfamiliar, but the gray one, if not mistaken, should be Lin Haijun's Buofeng. Lin Haijun was somewhat well known here. Every race, he would bring Buofeng and often managed to take advantage of the official perks. Those who could put Lin Haijun and Buofeng in a tough spot were usually notable figures, but no one had any impression of this white machine. Just as the crowd was speculating, another roar of an engine came through. Everyone turned to look, and they saw a silver-white machine swirl into the track like a whirlwind. The front of the car faced the apex of the turn, executing a beautiful and smooth drift. After a brief tremor, the car quickly straightened out at the exit, almost parallel to it. The next moment, with a roar, the machine's rear shot out 4 streams of blue flames, and in the blink of an eye, it disappeared from everyone's sight. What the hell? Is this a ghost? Who knows what the cornering speed of that machine was just now? My camera has a speedometer. Let me check. Wow. 178 kilometers h. I can't believe it. Aren't they afraid of flying off the track? Xingming, What was our cornering speed just now? Let me see. Oh, master, it was 158 kilometers h. Great, that's impressive, meow. When Xingming saw this data, she was stunned and stuttered, saying, Master, my speed sensor isn't broken, right? Is this the cornering speed I can achieve? When I was with Wang Tingting before, her cornering speed was only around 100 to 120 kilometers h at most. With Su Chen here, just adding a modification core can improve it so much? Xingming isn't foolish. She knows there must be a reason related to the modification core, but mainly it's Su Chen's skill. Su Chen's technique is much better than Wang Tingting's, not just by a little bit. This cornering speed is decent, but actually, based on your performance, you could push it a bit higher. You can push it higher. Xingming's eyes widened, her voice trembling upon hearing Su Chen's words. Yes, but considering tire wear, it's safer to play it safe. Let us aim for a top 3 finish. Su Chen shrugged and sighed helplessly. Xingming stared blankly at the track, not daring to speak. What does it mean to just aim for a top 3 finish? For her, just being able to finish in the top 3 feels like a dream. Meow? But it seems like Master isn't satisfied. Master is so cool, meow. She wants to learn from Master too. Virum. The sound of an engine roaring approached slowly from behind again. Su Chen knew that after entering the straight track, Lin Haijun and Pafeng were starting to catch up. But they definitely wouldn't be as relaxed as they were at the start of the first lap. After navigating the challenging turns, there was a long straight road leading to the finish line. The drivers and machines would emerge from the tunnel, returning to the previous starting point to enter the second lap. When he drove Xingming across the finish line, Pafeng was still 15 meters behind her. This was just the gap from the first lap. If they maintained their pace in the subsequent laps, and Lin Haijun and Pafeng had no good countermeasures, the distance between them would only increase. Lin Haijun and Pafeng had already lost their chance. It was surprising to see such interesting drivers in this small race. At the finish line, in the shadow of the dim lights, there leaned a tall figure. She was slouched against the railing, her long fingers gripping a deformed beer can, with the words nutrient liquid beer flavor faintly visible on it. The streetlight cast a soft glow on her cold profile, but it couldn't warm the chill in her red eyes. Her slender phoenix eyes were slightly lowered, her gaze casually resting on the track, seemingly not paying much attention to the race at all. At first, there were a few blondes around her, watching the race while trying to approach and flirt. After all, the girl was beautiful, with a hot figure, like a rose blooming on an ice field. But when they saw the black collar around her neck with the word warning engraved on it, they lost all interest. Without a doubt, this was a machine with a unique aura. The warning on the collar indicates that this is a malfunctioning model. A malfunctioning model, no matter how unique its temperament, is no different from a scrap vehicle. It's meaningless to flirt with such a model. Approaching a malfunctioning model is even more of a waste of time. In the night, a cold female voice suddenly echoed behind the girl. Queen, it's time to go back. Headquarters hasn't allowed you to wander around. The girl turned to see a middle-aged woman in a suit. The night wind lifted her long black hair into an elegant arc, and in the shadows, the corners of her red lips curled in faint disdain. Hasn't anyone told you that you look like a hotel waiter? It doesn't matter how much you insult me. The middle-aged woman ignored the sarcasm, seemingly accustomed to it. Come watch a race with me. Who do you think will make it to the top 3? The girl turned back to gaze at the racetrack, droplets of nutrient solution sliding down her slender fingers onto the railing, then dripping onto her fair thighs, soaking into the black stockings. The middle-aged woman sighed, took out her phone, and examined the detailed information on the screen, stating matter-of-factly, aside from that fried fish guy Yu Ming from the Northern Wolf team, the skills of the other drivers are subpar and not worth considering. So based on the model's performance, the top 3 are Yu Ming from the Northern Wolf team, second is Lin Haijun from the Breaking Edge team, and third is Su Zilong from the Wild Racer team. You all trust the data too much. The girl's voice was emotionless. Because data can reflect everything. Really? What if someone else makes it to the top 3? Who? The middle-aged woman raised an eyebrow. The girl pointed to the second-to-last names on the data board, Su Chun and Xingming. They can make it to the top 3. The middle-aged woman immediately pulled up Xingming's profile and scoffed. A D-class vehicle with such poor performance, making it to the top 10, is already a stretch. How about we make a bet? Bet on what? A month of freedom. The girl turned, her indifferent gaze landing on the middle-aged woman, as if her freedom were merely a commodity found in stores. If they make it to the top 3, you want to restrict my freedom for a month. If they don't, I'll obediently return and cooperate with your modifications. How about that? The middle-aged woman pondered for a moment, then adjusted her glasses and slowly nodded. Deal. Chapter 17. Overturn click. This was the second time the Breaking Edge vehicle crossed the finish line. The gravel exploded beneath the chassis with a crisp sound like a sudden downpour. Lin Haijun stared at the flashing taillights ahead, his eyes filled with shock. They were getting further away. Despite giving it his all, the distance to Xingming's vehicle continued to widen. Over 10 meters in the first lap. Nearly 50 meters in the second lap. Su Chun and Xing Ming handled the corners exceptionally well, clearly at the level of professional club racers. The only flaw on their part was on the straight track, where he and braking edge could only make up a bit of the difference. But a race cannot consist solely of straight lines. The special underground tunnel race in Binhai City is rated at a difficulty of 2.5 stars. This level of competition only ensures that there are no particularly tricky turns, and that's it. Master, what should we do? If this continues, we definitely won't catch up to them. The anxious voice of Bo Feng echoed in Lin Haijun's ear. Clearly she didn't want to lose. At least we should aim for the top 3, right? Our advantage lies in speed. Lin Haijun tightened her grip on the steering wheel and pondered for a moment. Then said, if we can't make up the gap on the straights, we'll have to improve our cornering speed, Bo Feng. Can we control the car now? Bo Feng gritted her teeth, unsure. Improving cornering speed had always been a part of their training. In fact, compared to before, their cornering speed had already increased significantly. However, they were still not familiar with the downhill hairpin turns typical of underground tunnel races. Recklessly increasing cornering speed without enough experience could be dangerous, as downhill speeds are the hardest to control. But racing requires courage, the willingness to try, and to take risks. She wasn't a coward. Master, I want to give it a try. Lin Haijun was taken aback, hearing firmness and determination in her machine's voice. Losing this race would simply mean missing out on beginner star material, but for Bo Feng, it would be a significant blow. After all, Bo Feng was a C-class machine, and losing to a D-class would be quite embarrassing. Moreover, from another perspective, a C-class losing to a D-class would also tarnish the driver's reputation. He was unwilling to admit he was inferior to Su Chen. All right, let's give it a shot. Lin Haijun took a deep breath and quickly calmed down. From now on, he had to ensure that every straight and gentle turn was executed to perfection, avoiding any mistakes. Meanwhile, outside the race venue, Brother G. These two machines are locked in quite a fierce battle. Let me take a look. Brother G followed the camera's view, and as a professional host, he immediately sensed a potential highlight. He decisively instructed, quick, focus all cameras on these two machines. Ladies and gentlemen, the current top 5 competitors are Su Zilong, Zheng Gang, Du Zitong, Li Yaochun, and Mike Bai. Additionally, there are 2 competitors closely trailing behind them. They are our old friends Lin Haijun and Bo Feng, along with a newcomer. Staff seamlessly transitioned the profiles of Su Chun and Xing Ming, and Brother G's eyes widened as he exclaimed, oh my gosh, this is so interesting. A rookie participating in the race for the first time and a D-class machine are actually giving our old friends a run for their money. What kind of magic do they possess? Let us keep an eye on the big screen. Brother G's words immediately caused a stir among the spectators around the track. Many of them were aware of Lin Haijun and Bo Feng, not to mention Lin Haijun's decent skills. He was also a regular in the Binhai underground races and was very familiar with the tracks. As for Bo Feng, a C-class machine should definitely outperform a D-class machine. They couldn't possibly be holding back, could they? But soon, they changed their minds. In the 3rd lap of the Binhai underground race, the downhill hairpin turn approached. Lin Haijun watched the speedometer of the breakthrough continuously jumping, sweat starting to bead on his forehead, and he realized that his back was already soaked with cold sweat. Previously, he would slow down about 100 meters from the bottom of the slope, using the deceleration sign as a reference. But now he decided to cut that distance in half and slow down after just 50 meters. Su Chen's Star Dream should also slow down around 50 meters, right? He murmured to himself, recalling that when he and Breakthrough slowed down earlier, there was no reference point relative to Star Dream, and the specific details were a bit unclear. If we can maintain the same cornering speed as them, we can overtake them. The thought flashed through his mind just as Breakthrough had already passed the deceleration sign. It's now or never. The downhill corner was just ahead, 50 meters away. The darkness at the bottom of the turn loomed like a gaping abyss waiting to swallow someone. Meanwhile, the all-white machine of Star Dream had already initiated its challenge against that darkness under the control of its driver. Lin Haijun and Breakthrough needed to follow suit. Su Chen glanced at the rearview mirror. This time, Breakthrough was much closer to Star Dream. They were anxious. He withdrew his gaze and noted that Star Dream was currently at a speed of 159 km/h. As the pursuer, Breakthrough's speed would be even faster and closer to danger. About 20 meters from the bottom of the slope, he stepped on the brakes, and Star Dream instantly cut into the turn. Not 50 meters. This is dangerous. By the time he realized this, Lin Haijun had no way out. Breakthrough entered the corner at a speed of 165 km/h. At that moment, the aerodynamic kit was still generating downforce, but the onboard telemetry indicated it was nearing its limit. Lin Haijun quickly downshifted and pressed the brake. His actions were flawless, even quicker than ever before. But the braking distance had already exceeded the safety range. The fierce wind battered the windows. The guardrail at the edge of the curve was rushing toward him. Turn. Please. Lin Haijun shouted as he desperately turned the steering wheel. Creak. The front wheels of Breakthrough instantly lost grip, and the tires screeched against the track surface. Master, the suspension system is overloaded. Rollover prevention system warning. Breakthrough's voice was urgent and panicked. We might flip. Lin Haijun immediately tried to correct the course. However, the reflexes from hitting the guardrail made his counter-steering too aggressive. Oversteering is every novice driver's nightmare. At the moment the rear of Breakthrough swung out, the center of gravity shifted, with the left two wheels lifting off the ground, the right tire edge scraping wildly against the track. And the white smoke from the friction between rubber and asphalt instantly obscured Lin Haijun's view. Everything was spinning. He had lost track of where he was on the track. All he could hear were the wails of Breakthrough, the screams of the audience, and the continuous sounds of collisions. On the electronic big screen, the host and the audience stared in shock as Breakthrough crashed into the road shoulder. The next second, bang. The car was as if lifted by a giant hand, flipping 3 times in the air before crashing down with a thud, its chassis facing up, blocking half the lane, with all 4 wheels still buzzing and spinning. Yumming and Shuing, who were speeding behind, were so frightened that they immediately changed lanes, nearly twisting into an S shape on the track, narrowly avoiding disaster. The cameraman, stunned, poked at the equally astonished Chicken Brother. Did it just flip? Chicken Brother quickly regained his composure, his expression darkening. Damn it, I'm not blind. What are you standing there for? Has the rescue team been dispatched? Hurry and get them to take Lin Haijun and Pafeng away. If there's a chain collision later, it will be disastrous. Outsiders watch the excitement, while insiders see the details. Chicken Brother looked at the big screen displaying Xingsong, who was ahead, with a complicated expression. He wasn't a driver, but he could be considered somewhat knowledgeable. He knew that it was because of Su Chun and Xingsong that the veteran duo Lin Haijun and Pafeng flipped. Was Su Chun really a rookie? In Chapter 18, Duel, Su Chun, with an expressionless face, said, "Our opponents, Lin Haijun and Pafeng, have flipped." Xingsong paused, her fluffy cat ears perked up, trembling slightly. Is it because of us? I guess so. They tried to overtake and got too anxious, losing control in the corner. Through the rearview mirror, Su Chun saw Xingsong's round, incredulous eyes. Master, we actually made Lin Haijun and Pafeng flip. Master, you're amazing. Su Chun felt quite pleased with Xingsong's praise. However, there wasn't much to be proud of in overtaking Lin Haijun and Pafeng. He was just slightly better than Lin Haijun. Compared to the top drivers from his previous life, he could only be considered third-rate, much better than the average person, more professional than seasoned drivers, and just a bit stronger than pro drivers. In terms of driving skills, he had truly witnessed a godlike presence, and that driver happened to share his surname. But talent was often envied, and that exceptional individual had ultimately been framed and killed on the track. Master, do you think we can get into the top 3 this time? Xingsong's voice carried a hint of anticipation and uncertainty. Initially, she had no expectations for the final outcome of the race, just hoping not to be disliked by Su Chun regardless of the result, as she was unsure of her standing among the competitors. Now, with Lin Haijun and Pafeng completely eliminated, a spark of hope ignited in her heart. Don't worry, Su Chun replied firmly. Although they still had some distance to cover to reach the top 3, we will definitely place. I promise. Just then, a roar erupted behind them. Like a demon's howl, the rearview mirror flashed with light, and Su Chun looked up to see a pair of blue diamond-shaped headlights glaring back at him. It was the machine with the wolf head emblem. Su Chun was taken aback. He had nearly forgotten about that vehicle. Master, she's so fast. Xingming was startled to see the pursuing vehicle, Zhuiying, closing in rapidly. The speed of Zhuiying was indeed impressive, almost reaching right behind in the blink of an eye. Once close, Zhuiying did not accelerate further but flashed its headlights twice. A provocation? Su Chun squinted. He pulled down his right hand, instantly downshifting. The engine of Xingming roared to life, its RPM skyrocketing with a surge of torque. What did it matter if the club had professional drivers and machine girls? He wanted to see if you were truly skilled or just relying on the machine girl-esque performance. Xingming was clearly no match for Zhuiying in straight-line acceleration. When Zhuiying's front was level with Xingming's door, Su Chun had already seen the performance attributes of this machine girl. Speed 65, cornering 67, burst 74. These 3 main attributes completely overshadowed Xingming. It was comparable to a B-class vehicle. Su Chun felt a wave of darkness wash over him. No way, buddy. You brought a B-class vehicle to run in this little race. That's excessive. Unbeknownst to him, inside Zhuiying's cockpit, Yuming's usually stoic face was filled with excitement. He chuckled. Is this the kid who made Lin Haijun crash? He wanted to see who this driver really was. Zhuiying ahead sighed, appearing unfazed. After all, having spent so much time with Yuming, she knew what her master looked like when he got excited. But did it really require such seriousness for a novice driver? Yuming was not in a hurry to overtake. He could not gauge Su Chun's skill just by passing him in a straight line. He kept Zhuiying tailing closely behind Su Chun and Xingming like a lurking wolf. He was waiting for the turn that would reveal the skill levels of Su Chun and Xingming. Time ticked by, and the sign for the downhill section flashed by at the edge of the tunnel. The battle at the downhill hairpin turn finally began in the fourth lap. This time, the protagonists were Xingming and Zhu Ying. Ladies and gentlemen, here they come. They're really coming. The enthusiastic shout of the commentator echoed through the broadcast. At this moment, the barriers at the downhill turn were packed with spectators, multiplied several times compared to before. Roaring. Amidst the howling of engines, Xingming and Zhu Ying dashed down the slope almost side by side. The entire track seemed to tremble under the charge of the two machine girls. As they approached the bottom of the slope, the battle commenced. Yu Ming, who had been driving without special maneuvers, suddenly accelerated and aggressively cut into the inside line. Screech. The sound of tires grinding against the track pierced the air. Are you out of your mind? Su Chun gritted his teeth and tightened his grip on the steering wheel. While surprised by Yu Ming's bold maneuver, he was unwilling to back down and launched a counterattack. He directly abandoned his ideal driving line and forced his way into the narrow gap on the inside. In that instant, the two machine girls were almost glued together, parallelly navigating the turn in the same posture. Roaring. The engines screamed at the edge of their limits. The suspension creaked, and the carbon ceramic brakes glowed red hot. In the turn, he and Xingming did not fall behind. However, Zhu Ying's stability was 53 compared to Xingming's 45, a difference of 8 points. This meant Zhu Ying was easier to control and could straighten out more quickly when cornering. It was this 8-point difference that allowed Yu Ming to pilot the Zhu Ying out of the corner first, flooring the accelerator. In that instant of overtaking, time seemed to stand still. The side window of Zhu Ying was parallel to Xingming, with only centimeters separating them. Su Chun could clearly see the blue flames shooting from Zhu Ying's turbocharger, the car trembling slightly under aerodynamic limits. He couldn't make out the driver's face, only catching a glimpse of the reflection of the track lights on the helmet, flashing by like lightning. The two exchanged glances through the car window, and Yu Ming suddenly gave Su Chun a thumbs up. Awesome. Haha. Bro, you're really amazing. Ah, master, you're so loud. They can't hear you through the window, Zhu Ying complained. Frowning. Who cares? Yu Ming retracted his hand and focused intently on the track. Anyway, I'm having a great time tonight, huh? I never expected to encounter such an impressive driver in this small race. I even feel his skills might surpass mine. Zhu Ying pouted but didn't refute him, because she knew it was true. That guy named Su Chun was indeed quite impressive. As they exited the corner, the front spoiler of Zhu Ying had already surpassed the front bumper of Xingming. Yu Ming skillfully maneuvered Zhu Ying, successfully pushing Xingming to the outer lane. Amid the roar of the engine, Su Chun took a deep breath, relaxing against the seat, as the adrenaline rush gradually subsided. No wonder he's a professional driver. This is interesting. A slight smile crept onto his lips. He wasn't frustrated by Yu Ming and Zhu Ying overtaking them. In the world of racing, there are strict hierarchies that test both the driver's skills and the car's performance. If you can't keep up, you just can't, and that is fine. It's the motivation to catch up that matters. Su Chun wasn't someone who couldn't handle losing. Moreover, he glanced at the race board flashing by at the finish line. Yu Ming and Zhu Ying winning didn't affect his ability to obtain the materials needed for Xingming. By the time he and Xingming crossed the finish line of the fourth lap, their overall performance had already surpassed the competitors ahead, placing them third in the entire field. Xingming, how are you feeling? Su Chun suddenly noticed that Xingming had been quiet for a while. Xingming, Xingming? He called out twice. After a moment, the girl's weak voice came from the front. Master, I'm sorry, Xingming. Su Chun sighed and interrupted his machine's words. Is it necessary to apologize for such a small matter? How badly were you affected by Wang Tingting's words? He reached out, wanting to pat his machine's little head, but the limitations of their seating position meant his hand could only rest on her. Well, let us say it wasn't ideal. However, that didn't stop him from transmitting strength to Xingming. Remember my words. The track is never a place to compare who is more perfect, but a place to witness who can find breakthroughs amidst imperfection. And right now, we are on the path to breakthrough. There was a long silence in the cockpit. Master, I understand. Xingming's voice trembled, warmth enveloping her heart. She hadn't expected to receive gentle encouragement from Su Chun instead of scolding. But she bit her lip, her cheeks flushing. But could you please not grip so tightly? Su Chun, realizing it later, withdrew his hand and chuckled. Oh, that's just how tuners are. Sometimes our hands just get a bit out of control, huh? Chapter 19, Final Rankings, Bin House City, Night, 9:51 p.m. Boom. Another mech girl rushed past the finish line. As time went on, fewer and fewer competitors were yet to arrive at the finish. At this moment, the electronic screen displayed the top 3 competitors. Yu Ming Zhu Ying completed the race in 46 minutes and 17 seconds, with an average speed of 200 km/h. Su Zilong finished in 54 minutes and 33 seconds, with an average speed of 171 km/h. Zheng Gang finished in 56 minutes and 21 seconds, with an average speed of 165 km/h. Usually, by the time these results came out, Su Zilong and Zheng Gang would have breathed a sigh of relief. They were regulars at the underground races in Binhao, relying on race winnings to save up for modifications for their mech girls. And today's results had already broken their previous records. But now, they were still fixated on the electronic screen. Zheng Gang, in particular, was holding his mech girl's hand, sweating nervously. This was entirely due to the unusual nature of tonight's underground race in Binhao. First, there was the Northern Wolf team's explosive performance, finishing first despite starting last. Then a newcomer, whose name they had never heard, had taken out their fierce competitor Lin Haijun midway through the race. Now they were waiting for this newcomer's results. The audience was waiting, and at the very front of the stands, a cool girl leaning against the railing was also waiting. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the finish line. We can already hear the engine sounds. With a loud shout from the commentator, all camera angles focused on the finish line. Creak. The screech of tires against the ground echoed. In the darkness at the end of the tunnel, two bright headlights emerged. Here they come. The girl's eyes lit up as she straightened up, looking in the direction of the engine sounds. At that moment, 5 competitors had yet to reach the finish line. And she silently prayed. Is it them? If so, who among the top 3 would it be? The mech girl quickly approached. And soon the entire vehicle became clear to all the spectators. A dazzling white body, a beautiful streamlined shape, and those distinctive matrix headlights. Wow, it's the one that took down Lin Haijun. Someone shouted, pointing at the speeding car. What was her name again? It seems to be Xingming. There were no more curves ahead. Inside the cockpit of Xingming, Su Chen's gaze was as sharp as an eagle's, fixed on the racetrack. In the latter half of the race, Xingming's cornering speed had actually decreased. This was due to tire wear leading to insufficient grip. For safety's sake, he had to choose to slow down while turning. Before slowing down, he was confident about making it into the top 3, but after slowing down, he wasn't so sure anymore. Although he had brought Xingming this far, as the driver, he had to prioritize the mech girl's safety. Star Dream, your tire wear has exceeded 30. How about reducing your speed a bit? Through the rearview mirror, Su Chen saw Star Dream's tense and pretty face. Tires are like shoes. If shoes wear out, it's the feet that suffer. If the rim grinds against the ground at high speed, it's hard to imagine how painful that would be. Master, I can do it. Star Dream leaned forward with a serious expression, gritting her teeth. She also noticed the average speed rankings on the electronic screen. And the top 3 results were unstable. Really? Really? The girl's voice was unprecedentedly firm. The nerve connections from her spine to the cockpit radiated a dazzling brilliance. All right. Su Chen took a deep breath. Then let's go all out. Yes, master. The success or failure hinges on this moment. She didn't want to let down Su Chen's modifications or his efforts. She wanted to become a more powerful C-class machine girl and participate in the city championship. She wanted to step on Wang Tingting and tell her that she wasn't useless. Charge ahead, meow. The accelerator was floored, and the speedometer needle shot up. The frequency quietly increased, and the speed that had already reached its limit surged again slightly. 50 meters, 30 meters, 10 meters. The instant they crossed the finish line, the timer stopped simultaneously. Su Chen pressed the brake with his right foot and the clutch with his left, then jerked the steering wheel. Creak. Star Dream's car tail suddenly swung out, tracing a beautiful arc. The tires screeched against the asphalt, leaving 2 black tire marks. Her car slid sideways at nearly a 90-degree angle, smoothly coming to a stop amid smoke and rolling rubber debris at the collection platform. The engine's roar abruptly ceased. Heat waves slowly rose from the white smoke produced by the tires. Su Chen calmly picked up a nearby bottle of mineral water, opened it, and took a sip. He didn't check the results immediately. Instead, he unbuckled his seatbelt, stood up, and patted Star Dream's small head. You did great, Star Dream. Our first race was a perfect collaboration. Star Dream switched from racing mode back to her humanoid form. She was drenched in sweat, her pretty face flushed, and she was slightly out of breath. It felt like she had just been pulled out of water, with her racing suit clinging tightly to her skin. Each step she took left a smoking rubber footprint. Even though the staff had promptly sprayed cooling mist on the tires, the rims were still very hot. She looked at Su Chen's outstretched hand. Her cat ears perked up, timidly giving him a high five. But master, we still don't know our results. The results don't matter, Su Chen shrugged, appearing indifferent. What's important is that we've given our all today. We don't regret coming here. Especially since his hand definitely was not in vain. He even decided not to wash his hands tonight. Before he could finish, both of them heard the agitated voice of a commentator from the audience area. Ladies and gentlemen, the most special competitor of this race has reached the finish line. His result will affect the final rankings of this competition, and I believe everyone can't wait any longer. Please look at the big screen. The audience looked at the big screen, and Su Chen and Xingming also turned their eyes to it simultaneously. Since they were the last pair to start, their names were placed third from the bottom on the screen. The second from the bottom was Lin Haijun, who had already been eliminated. The last was Yu Ming, who had already secured first place after the results were announced. Ding ding ding. Accompanied by the stirring drum beats, their names began to flash. Su Chen's expression remained unchanged, but he clenched his fists, while Xing Ming covered her face with her hands, holding her breath, wanting to look but afraid to do so. Su Chen and Xing Ming's total time was 55 minutes and 7 seconds, with an average speed of 170 km/h. The moment the results were displayed, they quickly moved up the rankings, ultimately pushing Zheng Gang and the judge down to take third place. The audience erupted in enthusiastic cheers. The underground tunnel race in Bincheng had been dominated by seasoned racers for too long, and the spectators were tired of seeing them. Today, they finally witnessed an unknown driver and his machine girl breaking through under pressure to claim a spot in the top 3. The 4 contestants who started earlier than Su Chen and Xing Ming were unlikely to finish before them. There was no suspense left for the top 3. The spotlight at the finish line fell on the 3 contestants under the control of the lighting technician. The applause from the audience was thunderous. Master, it seems we are third. Xing Ming stood in the spotlight, still in disbelief, her voice trembling slightly. That's right, we are third. Su Chen patted Xing Ming on the head, a smile tugging at his lips. We did it. But unfortunately, I previously promised to treat you to stinky tofu and watermelon if we didn't make it to the top 3, and now, well, both are gone. Master, do we have the basic star element now? Yes. Can I upgrade to a C-level machine girl? Yes. Xing Ming took a deep breath, her azure eyes sparkling with brilliance. We can participate in the city championship. Exactly. Su Chen nodded vigorously. The smile on Xing Ming's face widened, and her eyes lit up as she suddenly lifted Su Chen and threw him into the air. Woohoo! I can upgrade to a C-level machine girl. She caught the pale-faced Su Chen and tossed him up again. Woohoo! I can participate in the city championship. Long live the master. Su Chen's scream echoed above the finish line. Xing Ming, you brat. Stop throwing me. I'm afraid of heights. Put me down quickly. A bet is a bet. The girl by the railing returned to her cool demeanor, but the slight upward curve at the corner of her mouth indicated she was in a good mood. For a month, you must not interfere with my freedom. I'll go wherever I want. Queen, that might not comply with the group's rules, the middle-aged woman said. Looking troubled, she truly did not expect Su Chen and Xing Ming to make it to the top 3. It wasn't her fault, after all. The information she had was that Su Chen was just a novice who had never participated in a race. Who would have thought that a novice's driving skills could rival those of professional racers? Rules? The girl's expression suddenly darkened, causing the surrounding air to drop in temperature. What needs to be done must be done. I have signed an agreement with you, but I also have the right to refuse cooperation. If you insist on talking about rules, I will not accept any form of modifications from you. The middle-aged woman clenched her teeth at these words, hesitated for a long moment, and finally nodded with her shoulders slumping. I understand. I will make sure to keep a record when I return. You also cannot send anyone to follow me. The girl said calmly, otherwise, I still won't cooperate with any form of modifications. Understood. The middle-aged woman sighed, realizing that there was no choice but to accept the situation. However, she also remembered the pair under the spotlight, the man and woman named Su Chen and Xing Ming. The girl similarly gazed at Su Chen and Xing Ming in the spotlight, her attention particularly focused on Su Chen, her eyes filled with curiosity and exploration. I heard this man is a modifier? Interesting. Chapter 20. Too absurd. At the emergency center near the underground tunnel in Binzhou, Lin Haijun had awakened from his coma, though his neck was still encased in thick plaster, rendering his head immobile. Pa Feng sat beside him, adjusting the angle of the TV in front of the hospital bed to face Lin Haijun directly. We lost thoroughly. Lin Haijun sighed as he looked at the screen showing a replay of the recent match. Master, I'm sorry. Pa Feng lowered her head, nervously fidgeting with her fingers and biting her lip. If my cornering performance had been a bit better, we wouldn't have flipped. She felt a deep sense of guilt. She hadn't sustained much injury from the recent incident, just a significant drop in her condition. But Lin Haijun had suffered greatly, not only sustaining a level 3 concussion, but also needing a neck brace. If he wanted to recover before the city championship, he would have to forfeit a chance for professional treatment, which was provided by a team of medical androids that could help drivers recover quickly from injuries. This isn't your fault. First, Su Chen's skills are quite good, and secondly, his android has clearly been modified. Lin Haijun reassured her softly, from Xing Ming's cornering performance. It's very likely she outperforms you in that regard. Plus, my decision-making was a bit hasty, which led to our loss. Master, I remember you participated in this race to get a basic star crystal for Miss Wang, right? Pa Feng said weakly. If we didn't get the basic star crystal, Miss Wang would definitely be upset. You don't need to worry about Wang Tingting's matter. Lin Haijun waved his hand casually. I have a good brother who has an unused basic star crystal. Just a bit of money to buy it will do. But you and I need to train hard, especially to improve our cornering speed. Otherwise, in the city championship, we are likely not to be a match for Su Chen and Xing Ming. Looking at the screen where Su Chen and Xing Ming were holding up their bronze medals, Lin Haijun clenched his fists. Losing to anyone was acceptable, but he absolutely did not want to lose to them again. His fighting spirit and hostility did not stem from the conflict between Wang Tingting and Su Chun, but from within himself. Due to the incident of reckless driving and overturning during a corner, it is likely to become a topic of conversation among the racers in Binzhou. The only way to wash away this shame is to defeat Su Chun and Xingming in a fair competition, such as the city championship. Breakthrough. Go. The girl by the bedside immediately stood at attention upon hearing the voice. Starting from tomorrow afternoon, we will begin special training. No, we start tonight. Master. But your injury is just a minor concussion, not a severe one. Lin Haijun coldly remarked, his eyes filled with fighting spirit. Check out immediately. Let us get it done. Is this what a basic star core is like? Su Chun lay on his bedroom bed, holding a round ball that shimmered with a golden glow. He had been back at the modification shop for some time now. The third place in the underground race in Binzhou came with a prize of 20,000 yuan and a basic star core, which was the ball in his hand. In the adjacent bathroom, the sound of running water could be heard, along with the girl's soft voice humming a cheerful tune. Xingming was taking a shower. According to this little girl, after running races all night, she felt sticky all over. So she decided to shower in her humanoid form to save on the high costs of professional washing and care services. The only downside was that it didn't speed up her recovery. With nothing to do, he began to study the upgrade materials for this machine girl. The glowing ball in his hand had a soft, bouncy texture, somewhat like a water-filled balloon, but light as a feather. The moment he let go, it would float down like a feather. How was the basic star core supposed to be used on the machine girl? Su Chun checked his phone for a while, and the information online was varied. First, for the machine girl to advance from D to C, one attribute must reach the qualifying line, which requires instrument testing. However, after his research, he found that the so-called qualifying standard was an attribute of 60 points. As for the star core, some said it should be directly given to the machine girl, others suggested inserting it into her chest. There were even absurd claims that one had to hold the basic star core and French kiss the machine girl. Ridiculous. So inappropriate. It must be exposed and severely criticized. Su Chun expressed strong condemnation and clicked on the second and third proposals for detailed reading. Master, I'm done with my shower. Xingming bounced into the bedroom after pushing the door open. Su Chun instinctively raised his eyes, feeling as though his breath had slowed for a moment. The soft light in the room illuminated Xingming as she stood there shyly, wearing an obviously oversized t-shirt that clung wetly to her curvy body. Her long white hair was damp and draped down, with droplets falling from the tips and quietly rolling off her delicate collarbone. Her snow-white cat ears, still soft from the shower, drooped down, looking fluffy and inviting to touch. Master, your clothes are a bit too big. Do you have a smaller size? Xingming mumbled, carelessly rubbing her hair with a towel while tiptoeing to the edge of the bed. Master, are you listening to me? She leaned in closer, her cat tail wagging cheerfully behind her, her bright blue eyes fixed on Su Chun without blinking. Master, why do you keep staring at me? Is there something dirty on my face? Xingming tilted her head, lifting a damp strand of hair behind her ear, revealing her delicate ear and slender neck. As she moved, her t-shirt subtly shifted upward, inadvertently exposing a small section of her fair lower back. Su Chun felt a wave of dryness in his mouth and quickly averted his gaze. Perhaps the competition had brought them closer, and Xingming seemed to be more at ease with him, as if she had let her guard down a bit. Ahem. You should dress a bit more properly. Su Chun pointed to Xingming's partially exposed chest. He could see droplets of water sliding down in a curve. Meow? Xingming exclaimed, hurriedly covering her chest with her hands, her cat ears suddenly perking up as she blinked her big eyes seriously. I trust Master completely. Master is definitely not the kind of person with ulterior motives towards me, but since it's Master's request, I will pay extra attention to my attire in front of Master from now on. Meow. Oh no, being forced to wear the hat of a virtuous gentleman. How could he show his masculine side in the future? Su Chun felt frustrated and helpless. Do you behave like this around Wang Tingting too? Absolutely not. Xingming shook her head vigorously, causing her hair to sway. I have a bond contract with Master. Meow. Do you know what a bond contract means? In simpler terms, it means we are in this together. Meow. What about a soul contract? Su Chun suddenly asked. Meow. A soul contract is much more powerful. Xingming's tail wagged joyfully behind her. In simpler terms, it means you are in me, and I am in you. Deeply intertwined, our souls merging, human and machine as one. Su Chun, do people really say such things without any ulterior motives? Alright, let's change the topic. Just as the wheels seemed about to run over his face, Su Chun quickly took out the basic star essence. Xingming, let me quiz you. How does a machine girl use basic star essence to upgrade herself? What kind of assistance should a driver provide to a machine girl? He confidently stated, it's not that I don't know. I mainly want to see if your theoretical foundation as a machine girl is solid. Facing Su Chun's question, Xingming fell silent for a moment, looking down. A bit at a loss. What's wrong? You don't know? Suchin was taken aback. He thought this should be basic knowledge for a machine girl. Because I haven't learned it, Xingming pouted, her cat ears drooping. Before, Wang Tingting thought I couldn't upgrade to C level and didn't plan to let me. So I missed out on many core knowledge classes related to machine girls. Then what did she have you do? To earn money by doing towing jobs, Xingming said, twisting her shirt hem, looking aggrieved. During public competitions, there are times when the logistics machine girls are insufficient, so they recruit ordinary machine girls and drivers for towing work. The organizers will pay some wages. This is one of the legitimate jobs we machine girls can do, meow. Wang Tingting is really something else. Su Chen's expression darkened. Skipping class to make money? Even if making money is fine, she hasn't spent it on Xingming. It seems that Wang Tingting has long thought about replacing Xingming after graduation. While Xingming, when making money by doing logistics and towing, probably still comforts herself that this might be her future modification fee. It's okay, master, it's all in the past. Xingming noticed Su Chun was unhappy and instead comforted him, her cat ears twitching slightly. It's precisely because Wang Tingting treated me poorly that I could meet such a handsome and capable master like you. She smiled, her eyes curving into crescents, and her cat tail swaying back and forth, making Su Chin's mood lift a bit. Oh, you're quite the flatterer, Su Chin chuckled. Xingming stuck out her little tongue and grinned. Does the master like to hear that? Not bad, Su Chin feigned modesty. Since Wang Tingting didn't teach you well, I will take on the responsibility of training you. I'll look up some information online to study later. It's indeed time to study seriously. At first, his contract with Xingming was primarily to activate her talents. But after spending a few days together and experiencing a race, he truly regarded Xingming as his future partner, whether in racing or as a modification specialist. Boss, I know. A cold voice suddenly sounded from behind. Su Chun and Xingming were startled. They turned towards the sound and saw a tall figure standing gracefully at the bedroom door. She was wearing a black dress that perfectly outlined her graceful figure, accentuating her snow-white skin. Her long, straight black hair flowed like a waterfall, shimmering with a faint bluish sheen under the light. Her delicate face had striking crimson eyes that seemed to hold flames, a proud nose, and lightly pursed lips like freshly bloomed cherries. But with a noble and icy demeanor rather than the bright red of cherries, the girl was calmly surveying the bedroom environment. Her elegant and composed demeanor made it hard to associate her with an intruder, more like a female leopard surveying her territory. When did this person arrive? Su Chin was taken aback. Is she a cat girl? Not a sound was made. Moreover, this is his bedroom, a private space. Who are you? He frowned. A guest. The girl glanced at Su Chun, her expression unfazed, and she took a seat at a nearby chair. Even if you are a guest, you can't just barge into someone else's bedroom like this. The door was open. The girl pointed at the bedroom door. That doesn't mean you can just walk in. Su Chin retorted. The door of the modification shop was also open, she added. Su Chun felt a wave of frustration. Is an open door a valid reason to intrude? From the various signs about her, he realized that this girl was also a machine girl. The only machine girl who came to his shop without a driver, besides Xingming, was her. A rare visitor indeed. Please wait outside for a moment, Su Chun said helplessly. I'm currently discussing leveling up with my machine girl. I'll come to attend to you once we finish here. I know. Just ask me. The girl lifted her chin slightly. Su Chun exchanged a glance with the girl, paused for a moment, and sighed as if in compromise. Then you tell me. The mechanical girl opened her core and just needed to bring the basic star essence closer. Isn't there a method called a French wet kiss mentioned online? Su Chin was not giving up. The girl tilted her head, a hint of sarcasm flashing in her eyes. Do you really want to learn something like using a power drill to treat hemorrhoids that you saw online? Su Chin replied. Well, that I can't learn. Opening the core star dream is something I can do. It should be a basic ability since the mechanical girl was created. A crystal resembling a flower bud was cradled in Star Dream's hands, emitting a soft, golden glow. Su Chun brought the basic luminous star essence closer to the crystal, and it seemed to be drawn in, merging into the core. After a few seconds, a new cluster of crystals, delicate as cicada wings, sprouted around the once solitary crystal, resembling petals. Then, without needing Star Dream to do anything, the core automatically retracted into her chest. Meanwhile, Star Dream closed her eyes, a gentle light illuminating her body, as if she were upgrading. Is this really enough? Su Chun turned to ask the girl. She nodded gently. Really no need for a French wet kiss? The girl remained silent, looking at Su Chun with an expression akin to observing a small fish, her crimson eyes filled with disdain. Under that somewhat oppressive gaze, Su Chun instinctively swallowed the words he was about to say. As Star Dream continued to upgrade, he shifted his focus to the guest, activating his divine eye. He was taken aback by what he saw. The girl's impressive attribute panel nearly blinded his titanium alloy eyes. Mechanical girl information name, Queen Star emblem, Thunder, burst type, speed, 76, cornering, 90, stability, 81, burst, 61, endurance, 82. Core modification, Vortex Monarch type, purple, Holy Mark, Frenzied Hunt Set, blue, speed 10. Stability 10, side flip correction 5. Eternal Heart Set, purple, endurance 9. Current level, SS, special talent, invalid. Frequency, 0, status, malfunctioning. Unable to drive. Evaluation, a top-tier mechanical girl with outstanding talent, but has been ruined by a brainless modifier. Without a doubt, this was the first SS-level mechanical girl Su Chun had encountered. Her panel attributes were quite luxurious, but something seemed off. Ignoring the inexplicable special status of being unable to drive, a mechanical girl should awaken her talent skills upon reaching S level, yet here it was marked as invalid. Additionally, for a burst-type mechanical girl, having cornering as her best attribute was peculiar. Comparing her attributes to the previously seen Golden Falcon, which was speed-oriented, her attributes clearly emphasized speed, followed by burst. For a burst-type mechanical girl, the primary attribute should be burst, then speed, and lastly cornering and stability. Even if I am a mechanical girl, it's impolite to stare at me like that. The mechanical girl named Queen suddenly spoke up, her tone cold and chilling. Suchin couldn't help but roll his eyes at her remark. Is it really that impolite? Is it polite to barge into someone else's room without permission? Although guests are welcomed, this guest is being too arrogant. The moment his gaze met Queen's, it suddenly sharpened, and he raised a finger pointing at her head. Then, he exclaimed 7 words. You have a problem. You. It's over. Chapter 22. The reason Su Chun thought that the SS-class mech girl in front of him would fly into a rage at such a remark. He wanted to seize the opportunity to directly point out the issue and gain a wave of admiration and amazement. To his surprise, the girl merely looked at him calmly. After a long gaze, Queen slowly nodded. You are right. After a pause, she continued, I do have a problem. So can you fix it? Such a straightforward conversation left Su Chun stunned for a while. After a moment, he nodded and then shook his head. Whether it can be fixed needs further research on my part. In fact, he had already seen the problem from Queen's panel. Furthermore, the last note was clearly a result of careless modifications by a clueless tuner. In simpler terms, a burst acceleration type mech girl had her cornering performance modified to a mere 90. Isn't that like forcing a math genius to learn English? It's a total mismatch. The core of racing modifications is to maximize the vehicle's advantages. Based on that, one should try to make up for its shortcomings. Some racing cars excel at cornering. One shouldn't compromise their cornering performance just to enhance straight-line acceleration. If that's the case, it would be better to build a completely new car. However, he couldn't say this directly. He still needed to follow the standard procedure. Inspections also come with a fee. He rubbed his thumb and index finger together. Do you have money? The girl remained silent, simply taking out a thick stack of cash from her pocket and gently placing it on the table. Wow. Su Chin's eyes widened. Such a thick stack should have at least 20,000. His smile suddenly became sincere. The customer is king. And a bit of arrogance is completely understandable. Next, I need you to cooperate and transform into racing form. Is that all right? Queen tilted her head, confusion evident in her crimson eyes. It was her first time hearing that the inspection required transformation into racing form. It usually done by scanning the entire mech with diagnostic tools, and then creating a modification plan based on the system's evaluation. But she also thought that this place didn't have the fully mechanized modification conditions of the headquarters. Since that's the case, she began to unbutton her skirt. Hey, what are you doing? Su Chin quickly called out as he noticed Queen's unusual actions. Taking off clothes, Queen's expression was unchanged. Her tone is flat, as if stating today's weather. It unnecessary to take off clothes to transform into racing form. This a car cover. Queen continued her actions without pause, her eyes not blinking. Direct transformation will cause damage. All right. Su Chan helplessly rubbed his forehead and quickly exited the room. I'll step out for a moment. Just call me when you're ready. Humans have so many rules. Queen clicked her tongue. Su Chan was about to close the door, but in frustration, he opened it again and said, This is basic morality between men and women. Don't you understand? I've never been naked in front of humans. Queen slightly raised her smooth chin, her crimson eyes glinting with mockery. Are you avoiding me because you're afraid of developing any desires? She deliberately paused, her tone dripping with disdain. The self-control of carbon-based life forms is indeed concerning. In that case, I will make sure to keep my distance. Su Chin replied. There's no point in discussing this. With a bang, he shut the door and turned to the bathroom to splash some cold water on his face. When he returned to the bedroom door, Queen had already finished her preparations. Can I come in? He asked. Yes, she replied. As Su Chun pushed the door open, a striking black sports car came into view. The car's design was quite extravagant, reminiscent of a familiar model from his previous life, but with sharper lines. The front of the car was more aggressive than the original, with angles as defined as a drawn sword, each line hinting at an explosive potential. The most eye-catching feature was the headlights, which were not the iconic fork shape of the previous model but sharp triangles, reminiscent of another high-performance car. At that moment, a pair of crimson lights glowed eerily in the dimly lit room, casting two fierce beams. Just by standing there, the car exuded an indescribable sense of pressure and intensity, as if it were a beast waiting for the right moment to pounce. Cool. Suchin couldn't help but give a thumbs up. Master, this sister's car is so beautiful. Star Dream's amazed voice chimed in from the side, revealing that she had already completed her upgrade. Suchin carefully examined the panel of his machine companion and found that Star Dream had reached C-Class. After the upgrade, each attribute had slightly improved, now standing at Speed, 44, Cornering, 62, Stability, 46, Burst, 34, Endurance, 52. When he looked at the modification core section, he was surprised to find that the modification core was missing. Star Dream, where's your Black Silk Thunder number 2 modification core? Star Dream perked up her cat ears and dumbfoundedly shook her head. I don't know, meow. Suchin was baffled. Star Dream was currently in a state without a modification core, yet her attributes had not dropped. Could this be one of the perks of his arrival in this world? That would be amazing. He could almost envision himself becoming a world-class driver, surrounded by machine companions, reaching the pinnacle of life. Machine companions automatically merge their modification cores during upgrades, solidifying them. Queen's icy voice cut through Suchin's daydream like a bucket of cold water. So that's how it is. Suchin sighed, then slapped his thigh. He had miscalculated. He should have given Star Dream a better modification core before her upgrade. It's meaningless. The window of the black sports car rolled down, revealing Queen's fair and delicate face. From D-Class to C-Class, only white quality can be solidified. Even if you give her a better one, it can't be solidified. She mercilessly added a jab. Moreover, this type of white core has very limited enhancement for the mech girl, and it might even be worse than a 39-star stigmata. Speaking of stigmata, didn't T-Queen have one? It seems to be called the Huntress set and the Heart of Eternity set. He also noticed that after upgrading Star Dream to C level, a stigmata slot was unlocked. Previously, the stigmata position in the attribute panel was gray, but now it had returned to a bright color, though there was no stigmata equipped. Aren't you going to check? Queen lazily leaned her half-bare arm against the car window, her delicate skin glistening softly under the light. A few strands of long hair cascaded down her shoulder, partially concealing her subtly visible collarbone. She rested her chin lightly on her arm, squeezing her exquisite cheek into an unexpectedly cute curve, but her crimson eyes were filled with impatience, clearly stating, "It's already very late." She paused and said expressionlessly, "Or are you the type who deliberately keeps women overnight, trying to do something inappropriate? TSK, that S getting more absurd." Suchin felt a rush of blood to his head. "I'm not that kind of person. I'll check it for you right away." He used a jack to lift Queen up, hoping to see her panic. However, he failed. Queen still maintained her indifferent demeanor, even showing interest in the jack. Old-fashioned car repair tool? Interesting. Suchin was at a loss, so he crawled under the chassis to take a look. There was no problem with Queen's body. The modifications were in place, and the components looked brand new, as if just out of the factory. But she was a mech girl, not a machine. She was a peculiar life form. Since it was a life form, one had to consider the influence of the mind and spirit on the body. "What level of mech girl were you when you were first born?" he asked while looking. "B level." Queen replied succinctly. From B to SS, there had been 3 core solidifications. Perhaps these 3 solidifications were what created Queen's current distorted attributes. Suchin felt that this must be the crux of the issue. "Do you remember when you started to be unable to activate?" "I don't remember." Queen frowned slightly. "It seems that part of my memory is missing. When I realized I was myself, I was already a malfunctioning mech girl. My headquarters is working hard to repair me because the chairman's daughter needs to modify me into a mech girl suitable for her, but they haven't succeeded yet. Since I am already SS level, they have invested too much financial and human resources in me, so they haven't given up on me yet." As the conversation progressed, Suchin noticed that Queen's synchrony was gradually increasing. He was beginning to see more information on the other party's panel. Synchrony, 20. Evaluation, a ruler that should dominate the track with absolute speed is now lost in mismatched corners. When she realizes her wings are being broken bit by bit, she gives up the struggle and lets her soul sink into the depths of darkness. The one before him is merely a beautifully crafted empty city, leaving only a glamorous exterior, while the heart has long since withered to ashes. After reading Queen's information, Suchin squinted, having a rough idea in his mind. To put it simply, as a being with a soul and emotions, it makes sense that the machine girl could suffer from traumatic stress-related autism under certain special conditions, doesn't it? Chapter 23. Staring fixedly, I roughly understand your situation. Suchin lowered the jack and pondered for a moment before saying to Queen, "Your modification direction is incorrect. For example, your current core, the Turbo Monarch Type 3, is an excellent purple core, but its main enhancement direction is for cornering and stability. You should focus on speed and burst." Queen blinked, and a fleeting light seemed to flash in her red eyes. Can it be changed? It can't be. Su Chen shook his head. What level is my modification shop? I can't get such advanced materials, and even if I were to change your modification core, it wouldn't be meaningful. You've already solidified your core through 3 modifications from B to SS, unless you can lift the solidification of the previous 3 modifications. He paused. Simply put, it means reverting you from SS level back to B level and starting all over again. Each advancement should involve replacing it with a core that enhances speed and burst. Queen lowered her eyelashes, her thin lips pressed together. After a moment, she turned her head. Do you have any suggestions? Her tone was indifferent, yet it couldn't hide a hint of disappointment. Suggestions, huh? Su Chen stared at her thoughtfully. Replace it with a module that increases burst and speed. The Turbo Monarch Type 3 really doesn't suit you. It's clear that the person who installed your modification core wanted to make you a perfect hexagonal warrior. But that is impossible. He turned around to wipe his hands with a cloth and continued. The higher the speed and burst, the harder the vehicle is to control. If you want to manage it, you have to give up speed. If you want high speed, the driver needs to use skill to compensate for the instability in corners. Who is your driver? He didn't look back, telling her not to always pursue cornering stability. As a driver, how can you lack a spirit of adventure? Do you know what speed and passion mean? Without speed, where does the passion come from? The room fell silent. Su Chen focused on wiping the tools on the workbench. Xingming curiously looked back and forth between Queen and Su Chen, her cat ears on top of her head turning like little radars, and her tail swaying restlessly. If only her thoughts could align with yours. After a while, Queen murmured softly. What did you say? Su Chen, holding a wrench, turned his head. But he saw that Queen had already transformed back into her human form. The dim yellow light in the room seemed to paint her with the afterglow of sunset. Her shoulder blades resembled folded wings, graceful and delicate, and the lines of her spine flowed smoothly down to her slender waist, further outlining a perfect peach-shaped curve. Her snow-white skin almost glowed in the dim light, like exquisite pearls. Queen's elegance and perfection were at odds with the shabby workshop, like a splash of stunning color in a black and white painting. In his previous life, Su Chen had seen countless women, but at this moment, he couldn't help but hold his breath. Are you done looking? Queen did not turn around, her cold voice carrying just the right amount of sarcasm. Your heartbeat has quickened. It seems you indeed have inappropriate thoughts about mech girls. Su Chen instinctively averted his gaze. But then he thought, this is his territory, and Queen is not hiding it. Why should he shy away? Look. He was going to look. He stared intently. I'm just admiring your starry marks, Su Chen argued justly, focusing on Queen's slender waist. There were mysterious silver patterns resembling shark gills, which should be the starry marks. Oh, Queen said lightly, slowly putting on her dress, black stockings, and high heels. Humans are always good at finding excuses for their actions. She fastened her buttons and turned around, her fair chin slightly raised, red eyes staring at Su Chen like an elegant swan surveying tourists by the shore. I will consider your suggestion, she said as she walked toward the door. Just as she reached the doorway, she paused slightly and placed a stack of currency on the cluttered table by the door. Before Su Chen could react, she pushed the door open and left, leaving behind a light remark echoing in the corridor. You should renovate the place. It looks like a doghouse. The door closed, and the workshop fell into silence. Only a faint fragrance lingering. TSK. What a mess. Su Chen looked at the peeling ceiling of his wasteland-style shop, the aging incandescent light flickering frequently. But this did not affect his disdainful evaluation of Queen. A mountain doesn't need to be high. If there are immortals, it is spiritual. This is a humble abode. Only my virtue is fragrant. She understands nothing. Meow? Master, what do you mean by that? Xingming came over, her cat ears perked up with curiosity. The scent of her body wash mixed with a unique milky candy fragrance instantly dispelled the lingering aroma left by Queen. It means good steel should be used on the blade, Su Chen said, while counting the 3 stacks of currency Queen left behind. 40,000 in total, plus the competition prize, making it 70,000. The quarterly rent for the shop was 8,000. This money was enough for him to pay 2 years' rent. However, he did not plan to do that. He would keep 8,000 for rent and use the rest to upgrade Xingming. Here, Xingming, this is for you. Su Chen handed her 50 bills of currency. You've worked hard in the underground competition. This is your pocket money. Spend it on whatever you want. Xingming stared blankly at the money in her hands, her cat tail stopping its sway. Master, you don't need to give me money. Just take it. Buy whatever flavor of nutrient liquid you like, Su Chen said generously, now that he had money. But Xingming bit her red lip, her voice as soft as a mosquito. Can someone like me, a mech girl, really have pocket money? Why not? Su Chen raised an eyebrow. We have a bond contract. What's wrong with me giving you some pocket money? Besides, you're now a C-class mech girl. You can hold your own among newbies. Xingming burst into laughter at Su Chen's words, puffing up her cheeks. Master, I'm not a big crab. Her eyes twinkled, and her cat ears wiggled as she accepted the 5,000 currency, rubbing her little hands together like a money-loving character. Hee hee, I'm getting rich. Her tail wagged quickly. Master, shall we go shopping together later? Sure, Suchin nodded. There is a shopping center specifically designed for mech girls and their drivers, where only those with a mech girl driver's license can enter. He happens to want to purchase a batch of materials for modifying the core. Perhaps he can find what he needs in this shopping center. Right now, Xingming already has a slot for a Starshine Stigmata, but he hasn't looked into the information and pricing for it yet. If the price is right, he might select another Starshine Stigmata for Xingming. With the city championship approaching, he must enhance Xingming's performance as much as possible. This competition is an open event, an authoritative match organized by the official body. The participants in the city championship are either top racers among street drivers or professional drivers from clubs. Even racing in the underground circuit of Binzhou is a bit challenging for him and Xingming, so the city championship will pose an even greater challenge for them. Chapter 24, Canary Headquarters of the Voice of the Night. The crystal chandelier cast a cold light, and the Italian leather sofa exuded an air of luxury. The entire hall was as perfect as a meticulously polished diamond, luxurious, yet devoid of any warmth. Queen, where have you been? We've been looking for you everywhere. None of your business. Queen rolled her eyes at the middle-aged woman. She now enjoyed a month of absolute freedom. She could go wherever she wanted without reporting to the woman in the suit. I'm just worried about you. The middle-aged woman, instead of getting angry, smiled. As long as you come back, it doesn't matter even if you scold me. But she knew Queen wasn't that crude. This delicate-looking mech girl was best at delivering sarcastic remarks. Queen walked over to the sofa and sat down, her soft body sinking into the plush backrest. Lazily like a napping cat, she glanced at the middle-aged woman and said to Bandao, Jessica, what's the modification plan for me next? Let me see. Jessica's eyes lit up upon hearing this. All right, I'll get it right away. After a while, she returned with a document and handed it to Queen. Queen flipped through it briefly, her brows furrowing deeply. The headquarters was developing a Vortex Emperor-type modification core, which was also aimed at enhancing cornering and stability, intending to replace her current core. At the same time, they planned to change her Starshine Stigmata, removing the original combination of the 3-piece Eternal Heart set from the Wild Hunt and replacing it with the 2-piece Round Table Knights Angel Heart set. The latter's combination was more focused on overall enhancement, unlike the Wild Hunt set, which concentrated on acceleration and burst. In theory, both the Vortex Emperor and the 22 would be better than her current modifications, but Queen felt uneasy. A voice inside her told her that these seemingly great modifications were not what she wanted. What she desired was speed, extreme burst, not some so-called all-purpose solution. What do you think, Queen? Jessica asked eagerly. This is a custom modification plan designed just for you. It will definitely restore you completely. Not impressive. Queen shook her head. The focus of the modification should be on enhancing speed and explosiveness. Help me submit the application. Jessica's expression changed slightly upon hearing this. Queen, I'm afraid that won't work. Why? Queen narrowed her red eyes, and the air seemed to grow colder. The modification plan from the headquarters is to comprehensively improve your performance. Otherwise, you won't qualify to be Mrs. Machine Companion. Miss is now an S-Class driver, and her requirements for Machine Companions are that they must excel in all aspects. If you continuously fail to meet those requirements, you won't be able to appear on the racetrack. Not being able to race is a rather harsh punishment for a Machine Companion. Queen no longer remembered how she entered the Voice of the Night. However, the Voice of the Night is the largest and most famous club in the province, and most Machine Companions would not refuse it. Which Machine Companion wouldn't want to follow a capable driver in the future? Moreover, there are plenty of skilled drivers with technical expertise at the headquarters of the Voice of the Night. You will fix me, right? Queen struggled out of her confusion and looked directly at the middle-aged woman. Of course. Jessica nodded. All the modification plans developed for you by the headquarters are aimed at repairing you, allowing you to restart. The modification experts analyze that the reason you can't start is that your core cannot support your current performance, so your stability and endurance need to be further enhanced. Queen remained silent for a moment. She truly felt that her stability and endurance were already sufficient. The inability to start was definitely not an issue of stability and endurance. But saying these things was useless. The modification experts only cared about data. All right, she replied lightly. I understand. You agree to the new modification plan? Jessica asked excitedly. Queen looked at the middle-aged woman before her, her eyes deep with impatience. The Voice of the Night disrespected her opinions, but insisted on seeking her consent and formality. It was as if she was particularly fond of these modification plans, but what difference would it make if she disagreed? She couldn't start, and she would ultimately be imprisoned here, like a bird in a cage. I agree. Her voice was flat, but I want to arrange it myself this month. No problem at all. Jessica sighed in relief. It's good that you agree. Convincing her means a bonus for me. I want tickets to the city championship. Queen extended a finger. No problem, I'll get you the best VIP seats. Jessica readily agreed. Change the bedroom wallpaper to pink. Buy a new gaming console. And also get a panda plush toy. Great. I'll arrange it right away. Jessica noted Queen's requests on her phone. Any other requests? None. Queen closed her eyes and sank further into the sofa. She initially wanted Jessica to look up information on Su-chun and Xingming. But then she thought that doing so might cause trouble for them. She was only a bit curious about Su-chun, as it was quite rare for someone to be both a modification expert and a driver. However, the various suggestions Su-chun offered earlier made her realize that he seemed to understand her better than the modification team at the Voice of the Night headquarters. She wanted to see how far Su-chun and Xingming could go. In the midst of a storm, can a seagull really live better than a canary?